We had a guy comment. He's like, I can't believe you would eat deer off of properties that you're spraying like all this glyphosate and stuff on. I'm like, you think you're eating animals that aren't eating plants that aren't like ever?
Bro, I'm eating straight gly when I'm spraying. it's straight into the face. I make that turn and it's just straight into it.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, we've been using Deer Grow products for a long time. The Plot Start and Plot Boost, more recently Plot Till. Now we've got 3 new liquid fertilizers that have been put in the mix that will cover everything we could want for a food plot program.
It's huge, man. The more food plotting we do, it's like, man, the liquids just make sense. Like whether it's herbicides or the Plot Start and Plot Boost, and now the fertilizers getting mixed in. It's like, man, I can combine all of those in certain cases and do less passes for more results.
I mean, it's all about efficiency. I mean, like you said, less passes. If you're out there treating your beans with glyphosate in the summertime, you can mix in this fertilizer, do that all at once. You have the boost in there to help some metabolism. It's all about efficiency when we're talking about food plots. And really the big difference on these liquid fertilizers is you're bypassing some of these soil limitations, pH limitations, the soil type. In a lot of cases, we talk about dry fertilizers only being available for 17% of what you put down in the first year. These liquid fertilizers straight into the plant are 90% available in the first year. Huge difference in what you're going to see in growth.
It's huge. And so right now you can use code HUNTR15 for 15% off any of the Deer Grow products on their website. And as always,
better food plots, bigger deer. Hey, we're back.
Hey,
HUNTR Podcast, episode 188. Is Nick and his mustache continue to keep us in line?
Oh, yeah.
They can't see you with the mustache. They just see the back of your head.
They just see the back of my head, yeah.
Are you tracking days, Nick? You know how many days in you are on that stash?
At least 2 weeks.
2
wow.
weeks?
Yep.
Yeah. That looks like about a 2-year beard for me, 2-year mustache.
I mean, it's getting broom-like.
Yeah, thank you.
About to sweep it.
Yep.
I told him we need to get him a tracksuit, and he'll be like freaking drug dealer.
Yeah, won't be able to let him near any elementary schools with that thing.
Little snow plow on the upper lip there. So, well, hey, wherever you guys are listening to us, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, we appreciate you guys being here. Give us a like, follow, or subscribe, whatever is appropriate for the channel. One of those buttons, I think it's the bell notification, will let you know when we drop those. But it's 6 o'clock Eastern time every Tuesday night is when we drop these podcasts. If you've written us on Instagram DM or on the website, we have seen. I know there's a few of those.
Yeah,
we try to get back to as
we try
as urgently as we can. But just give us some grace on those. We appreciate you guys. And here we go.
It's June 20th.
And we got Mike Yoder in studio.
Sorry
to make you sit
Flew
quietly
in this morning.
No. Appreciate it. Yeah. Yep. Did fly in this morning.
Not on a drone.
Nope. Not on a drone. In an airplane.
What time was it yesterday where I was like, dude, what do you think? I was like, we got an opening tomorrow. Well, I was like, yo, Mike, we should talk, because I saw the DJI band thing, which we'll get to here at some point. I was like, what's going on with this? And I was like, let's have you back on. And I was like, what's tomorrow look like?
I think you texted me at like 2 p.m. yesterday. I mean, you started.
I knew immediately what the delay. I was like, the gears are turning. I was like, he might do it.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, like I was telling you earlier this morning, like once you have your pilot's license, you have access to an airplane, the world shrinks and the convenience is just freaking.
What's the flight over here?
It was 50 minutes with the airplane I brought. If I would have brought the other one, it would have been like 35, 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so not long.
The world shrinks.
Okay, so you think about driving for 50 minutes, not bad drive. Flying is even easier. It's like no speed limit, like no traffic lights, no cops. Like,
let's go.
Yeah, you just get up there and you just cruise, and then you sit there and you just look around because it's not like getting in a jet where you're 30,000 feet.
Right.
This you can actually like chill and like look at things. Yeah.
And no speed limit is pretty appealing.
I'm telling you,
I would benefit from that.
Dude, I'm telling you, if people think about getting their license, like you definitely should do it.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
Well, we talked through it. You basically said, 12 to 14 for the license and a 2-week commitment, like all days, that would be the training. And then
if you did a school.
At a school, yeah.
At a school. And then like a $30,000 plane, basically, is reasonable. So for $45,000 in 2 weeks, you could be, flying where you want.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
It's pretty nice.
That's how we started this morning. I was like, wait, you're telling me.
You're telling me.
This guy, I was like, how do I convince? Now we got to put together a pitch deck for Jeremy. Jeremy will pay for it if I allocate the time.
You're telling me if I come in at 5,
you're telling
going
me.
to take me out at 15.
Can you fly anywhere
It's a great tax write-off.
Can you fly anywhere you want?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like you were asking me, did you get clearance to land at the airport? Not at all. Nobody knows that it was
I
coming.
assumed like maybe you called ahead yesterday and just said, hey,
Nope.
do you have space or
Not at all.
Did you ask? Did you talk to anybody when you
No.
landed today?
Never.
So there's no flight tower or anything.
No, not at this county airport.
So you're just visually making sure, okay, nobody else is coming
okay,
in.
so there's a radio frequency for each airport. You
Yeah.
monitor that radio frequency as you're getting closer. You'll hear if somebody else is in the pattern. You call out your position even if nobody else is on it. So as I'm getting close to the airport, I'm saying my position, what my intentions are, and where I'm going. And yeah, that's how you do it.
How do you know that it's not like full? Like, are they ever like, hey, we have no more room for planes? We have too many planes parked here?
That happened one time to me when the solar eclipse was happening in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody from all across the country was flying to one location
that
where
area.
where the total eclipse was going to happen.
Where was that?
Somewhere in Tennessee. I don't remember. It was like 7-8 years ago. But
Oh, okay. Not this most recent one.
yeah, no, not the most recent one.
Gotcha.
That one over our home area, so I could just drive out and see it. But yeah, that's the only time I landed there. Didn't realize during that event they wanted you to schedule. I didn't, just landed and they just parked me.
I can't believe it's that informal. There's like there's parking spots for airplanes, and if you have a license, you're good to go.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
easy.
absolutely. I mean, now if you fly into bigger airports like
You with me on this?
Detroit or Columbus or something like that,
That's within reach.
Oh, it's totally doable.
Yes.
Even for businesses, I'm telling you,
It's a write-off.
It's a big write-off.
Yeah. That's $30,000 depreciation right there. And
I wonder what they have to do.
how much
like
of the 12 to 14
Because
can
like
you write
on a
off? you think?
vehicle, well, like on my F-250, I can depreciate that off in 1 year if
I bet
I
it's the
want.
same way
Yeah,
with the plane.
just same way.
Same way.
100%. Yep. Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
We need an airplane sponsor for the podcast.
I did just talk to my tax advisor about this. He's like, if you want to buy an airplane, do it. But he said the moment you put an airplane on your taxes,
You're going to get audited?
you're going to get audited.
Yeah, that makes
Why is
sense.
that?
Yeah. It's just so many people use it for that tax break.
Yeah.
And are you truly using it for your business? They want to know. Like this, I could prove, obviously. I mean, this is part of my business, media,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
And
coming and doing this.
But for guys like ourselves to use it,
Yeah.
that
Like if
are
we
in
wanted to take
media.
the family to Yellowstone and just be like, okay, we're going, like that's clearly not business.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have to document mileage then for audit purposes, just like you would vehicle mileage.
Yeah.
They would say, we want to see your mileage. Where did you go? Where's
Well,
your, like
they-
we have
they
to
probably
produce
go
a
on,
log.
the TAC, like the engine hours.
I think
That's
the hard part of that would be if you bought the plane as the company, then personally you probably have very tight limitations on how you can use that because it's a company plane.
airplane.
Versus like we talk about it with real estate and stuff. If you buy it personally and then you bill it back on a mileage basis or whatever in terms of vehicles, then you own the plane. You could use it for personal, but you could pay for it basically via business write-offs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not tax advice though.
Yeah,
On
of
the
course.
HUNTR podcast.
Not a CPA.
Of course, of course, of course.
Yeah.
But this, yeah.
And you're audited.
It's pretty cool. I would say anybody listening, if you ever thought about getting it, like
That is very attainable.
Make a commitment in your mind that you are going to do it, and you can.
Well, I mean, think about it. I don't know. I mean, a decent truck costs you $50,000 anymore, at least.
At least I was looking for used 2020s right now. A Chevy 2500 HD,
Yeah,
$50,000
$50,000.
new. I guarantee you that thing.
70s.
Yeah.
That is nuts that you can get one for $30,000.
What kind of plane is that?
You're looking at like a Cherokee 140 or like a Cessna 172. Yep.
Wow. And used for one? For
Oh yeah.
30?
Oh yeah. Definitely used.
Yeah.
Like these boogers are like 50 years old, but they work like they did the day they roll off the
Interesting.
the lot.
50 years old.
Yeah. But see, airplane engines and airplanes are completely different than vehicles. Like they go through an annual inspection, and you have to replace things. Like the engine has a overhaul limit, so once it has a certain many hours,
Got to redo.
their suggested overhaul hours on that. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. It's not like 50-year airplane. The thing's gonna fall out of the sky.
Boy, I mean, it's obviously a financial commitment, and the 2 weeks is hard to set aside. That'd probably be the tough part of it, but like
Doable.
doable.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit is like, I mean, dude, for the next.
Are you still trying to pitch him or what?
I'm trying to
I've been sold before I even said anything.
Well, I'm just trying to talk through it and honestly in my mind be like, how would I set that aside?
Okay.
The
So
time.
if you're gonna think about it, you're definitely you got to figure out how far you're going,
Yeah.
how much weight you're taking, and
Yeah.
how fast you want to get.
I mean,
there.
I would say most of the things.
I told you. I mean, it's 150 pounds plus Jeremy and I
Yep.
to Illinois.
Yep. Case, yeah,
But
that would be the
how fast do you
furthest.
want to get there?
Oh, it don't matter.
Fast as
faster
possible.
than driving.
Okay.
What do you mean?
So
What's
this,
that matter?
This airplane is going to be about half the time of what it takes to drive there. So if you're going to drive
it takes
there,
9 hours to drive there.
okay, so it's probably going to take you 4.5 hours to fly there with this airplane.
Okay.
If you want to get there faster, you want to get there in 2.5 hours. Now you bump that cost of that airplane way up.
What's way up?
Faster airplane.
100.25.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, way up.
Yeah, like the other airplane that a buddy of mine lets me use that I was going to bring over here, that's a 300 horse constant speed prop, full gas, full adults in it, luggage, the whole 9 yards. 200 mile an hour airplane, 325 probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big jump there.
Oh yeah, that,
So,
it gets fast.
And there are leasing options.
There are, but leasing can be a little bit of a pain in the neck because
Sure. Got to.
if you want to leave, because there's weather moving in or something and you want to go hunt
Yeah.
that weather,
Yeah.
you got to.
Just like leasing a county drill. Yeah, you're in line and stuff.
Can hear my CPA now twitching when I say, so what do you think about me buying an airplane?
Yeah. Do you know what they don't want? Is they know that when you do that, they're going to
There's
have to
an
deal
audit
with an
coming.
audit.
Interesting.
I don't know if I want to deal with an audit.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a
what I
red
said.
flag, huh?
I mean, the distance would be, so like if it takes me 5 hours to drive to Kentucky, if I could fly there in 2.5,
Yep.
that'd be pretty nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 30.
Would you do it on that kind of? See, yeah, and I guess what would come into question is like our utility for it. Like how much would we? How often would we fly to Illinois? Because I wouldn't. My family farm 2 hours drive. Yours is, you said 5 hours to Kentucky.
Yep.
How far to Ohio?
3.
I mean, is it? That's probably
Well,
you're
where's
teetering on the line.
where's the nearest airport to those as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I
It's
think
funny you
Kentucky
asked me.
have
You're like,
one.
"Where's the closest airport?" I just Googled it.
Yep,
So
right
I was like,
there.
"I don't know." So there's one right there.
Yeah. And you didn't even know about it?
No,
That's
Yeah, see, that's what's
I've never
crazy.
been there.
The
That's
Joe
what's
Hardy Airport.
crazy about it. It's like there's airports all across the country and people don't realize it. They're
Yeah.
right in their backyard and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
When you think airport, you think like the big airports, like where commercial
Yeah.
airliners
Pittsburgh
fly out.
International.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, part of me is too.
I don't think I'd want to land in one of those bad boys with all that
No.
air traffic
No.
coming through.
No, you wouldn't with this type of
Well, that's where my
airplane.
head's at. From a communication standpoint, calling ahead, I'm like, there's no way Pittsburgh International's letting you just like fly in there with no heads up.
Yeah, they would. Like, okay, so if I take off here and I call Pittsburgh right away as I take off, tell them my intention.
With some communication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Then they will
Then you could.
vector you in. Oh yeah, I'll land in big airports. I don't care.
Part of me too is like my grandpa had his pilot's license and had a bunch of planes. Just would take off from the farm and fly around. I was telling Mike on the way here, actually, he crash landed with my grandma in the back seat when she was pregnant with my uncle Jeff, I think.
Oh, wow.
Ran out of gas. Just forgot to fill it up.
That'll happen.
And so part of me,
Shouldn't
there's like
happen.
the family tie there to like, a lot of what we do on the farm that's the farm I hunt in Ohio, or a portion of it anyways. And I'm like tied to some of my grandpa's beliefs. His was for cattle, but mine's for whitetails.
Yeah.
Part of that is like, man, if I could carry on the tradition of like to have your pilot's license and be able to do that, that'd be pretty sick.
Well, remember when we were in Illinois hanging stands the heart attack day? The neighbor was flying his plane like right over top of us when we were out there.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's what
all
they,
over the place.
well, dude, some of those, the further, maybe just the further west you go or, whatever. I was telling Mike, my cousin Ethan has his pilot's license. He's a bush pilot in Alaska, and he tells me stories. They're like, "Oh, dude, we all the time." He's like, "I'll just fly down behind my buddy as he's driving to work. I'll bump my tires off of his roof, and we'll shoot coyote. Like we coyote hunt out of like our. They just treat them like a piece of farm equipment or like it's a UTV for them.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, if you'd have a bush plane here, like at this local airport, and you have a hunting land, if you have about 900 feet of open, you could land it there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh well, dude, I'd put a strip in at my farm for sure.
This is where you start talking when then people go like, it's almost not relatable.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, I mean, it isn't if you're talking about $125,000 airplane. Like maybe it is if you can really justify it for your business, but doubtful. But for
You can finance it, right? Like a car.
yeah,
you can, and you can loan out on them 25 to 30 years because they don't really lose their value. Like vehicles do.
And write that all off in the first year still.
I think the audit is the worst part.
Yeah, that's a struggle.
The audit is not good, especially when you own like 9 LLCs like I have.
That's the question.
That's
How
not
far
good.
do they take it? Yeah. Not that there's anything to hide, but that's a workload.
That'll make your life
through that.
miserable.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah, and now supposedly they're going to hire more IRS agents.
They've been
or
saying
something.
that.
I think
for a
they
few
did.
years.
I think they did hire them.
Do you believe that stuff?
With what money?
They make it. They just
Build
print it.
back better.
Print more.
They just print more. Yeah, print more money. I don't know. I mean, the thought process, or at least what they said, was they're going to hire all these agents, and then basically by all the audits they do would essentially pay for them, because they're going to find that you're cheating out on your taxes, and they're going to hit you with penalties, and that'll pay for the 80,000 agents.
Isn't that the craziest? It seems like such a small thing to I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
But is that just hearsay? Because it's like this political thing that's going on.
I mean,
with the
everything's
DJI.
political. Yeah, it's all political.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, maybe they're hiring agents, but like, I doubt they're hiring 80,000 agents
No.
or whatever to
Yeah, I
come
just don't
out
believe
and audit every small business in America. You want to talk about a revolutionary war? You'll get one real quick.
That's what I mean. It just seems like there's like pretty big transactions that are happening like pretty frivolously as far as like giving money to other countries and stuff. And it's like in
Sure.
the same breath, it's like, well, let's audit all of our citizens and private businesses
Yeah.
to make up for these
I mean,
decisions, these poor decisions.
It's
or I
not
don't
like it's not common knowledge, but I'm sure you guys have seen the whole, like, you pay taxes on money that you get taxed from payroll,
Yep.
then you pay sales tax
Yep.
on it, that when you save it, you pay taxes on
Yep.
it, that when you die, your kids pay taxes on
Dude,
it. When
it
you
is-
think about that, you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
What am I doing?
It is disgusting.
It's
It truly
nuts.
is disgusting.
And then that's when they show, like, the Revolutionary War was over a 2% tax for some people, not like even everybody.
Do you know what I wouldn't want to do is be that auditor? Like, I got audited with my other company, Anywhere Tree Care. The guy literally, I felt like he, not that he didn't have a soul, but he did not care about me. He knew
Sure.
about my family. He knew all these things I had. And after he put me through the audit, he knew it's going to basically shut me down. And he was like, hope you're able to keep the doors open, Mike.
Wow.
Goodbye. I'm like, what?
So
That would be brutal. Going home, right, and laying down
Yeah, how
at
you
night,
sleep at night.
knowing not only are you affecting the business owner, you're affecting everybody else that works for that business too, like the employees and stuff.
did that shut your business down? Or why do you say it or it put you at risk of that?
It was $87,000, and they wanted it paid now. No payments, nothing. They needed it paid now. Thankfully, we had just gone through a 4-week period of the company doing really well on Put-in Bay Island, where we were taking down trees. And so we had money, but the owners, we all just said we can't pay ourselves for a while. And so nobody got paid, and we paid the bill.
Can I ask, where did that come from? Where did they find this $87,000 miss?
It was through Workmans, Workman's Comp.
Things that were just missed, like overlooked?
Well, okay, so doing trees, paying Workman's Comp, Ohio is a lottery state. You have to pay it through the state. You can't shop.
Can't have a private.
No, the cost is the
Wow.
cost what the state tells you.
Wow.
Tree service is one of the highest
Sure.
percentages. When I started my company, it was 40%. So if I pay you $1, I have to give them 40 cents.
Wow.
And so when I started my company out, it was, I couldn't
That
do
makes
it.
no sense. How are you supposed to, before other expenses, function off of 60 cents on the dollar?
Right. And so I couldn't do it. And so so we had what we would have called independent contractors.
Yeah.
But
Seems like the
What-
workaround.
yeah,
A lot of people do that still. Contractors
not
and stuff.
until you go through an audit. They don't give a rip what you say. I don't care. Do you have a contract? Do you have a contract with you? Do you bring your own equipment? If you're showing up on my job that Anywhere Tree Care got, and you are there cutting down the tree that I sold, you are an employee. And so they
Really?
and so they went back.
Even on an independent contractor.
Yeah, trust
Seems
me.
like that
Dude, there's
that
a
is
bunch
what
of-
nullifies
There's
it,
a
right?
bunch of people that do it in our area, and
Yeah.
would I redo everything how I did it? Absolutely, because that was the only way I could get the company to where it was. I wouldn't have been able to make it.
You couldn't function off of that.
I couldn't make it before. So as long as you can get away with it,
You're good.
You got to do what you got to.
Mainly because you wouldn't be able to hire people because the wage would be too high.
Yeah.
It would be 40% higher than what you were paying.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then they start these groups that get in this group, and then your workman's comp percentage comes way down.
Right.
But file one claim and you're kicked out, and then you're back on your own. It's it's such a scam.
Works.
But the reason the whole audit got kicked off is there was a guy that got his face ripped off from a rope going through a chipper, and when OSHA came out, Workman's Comp came out, and then they basically took a radius of where that accident happened
and just blew everybody up in it.
Any tree company with inside there got audited.
Dude, it is a dangerous profession. I know people personally that have died in tree service businesses.
Yeah, I'm so thankful I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah. How long ago did you sell that business or shut it down?
We're in the process of selling it.
You still own it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As of right now, but we're in the process.
Cool.
Hopefully here soon.
Awesome. Dude, dig right into your personal finances right out of the gate here. But that's interesting.
Yeah. No, it's been
the audit process. Yeah, seems rigorous. I've never been through one.
There's
I'm certainly on a daily basis trying to prepare for if that ever would come, and we do everything above board. But it's like documentation seems like key.
When you talk about like the financial audit side of things, like most of the time you talk about that in a negative light. Like nobody wants to be audited from the IRS. But when you talk about audits, like checks and balances with like our game and fish commissions and stuff, like they're required and they're needed, because most of the time all that stuff under the hood we don't see. So when an independent audit happens, that's when most of this stuff comes out and you're like, holy shit, how about that?
Well, some of the companies I think do independent audits. It's funny that you mentioned that. Actually, I just got audited by my workers' comp company.
Yeah, I've got some on my desk right now.
They're like, hey, we just looked at what you filed for last year, and we just did our own independent audit, I guess. And they're like, hey, you owe an extra $1,000.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, those are one things, but the audit that I went through was a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, fine-tooth
like
financial.
Dude, they subpoenaed my bank accounts. Like, he started naming off names that I was like, how do you know this? He's like, trust me, I know. And it's like they literally had every single transaction that was ever sent out of the bank account. Mm-hmm. And so those type of audits are different than what you're talking about.
Sure.
Then once we paid that fine, we actually got set up with Workman's Comp, and we're paying them what they want because now we're established business and we can do it a little bit better.
Mine was easy. I gave them like a P&L and a payroll summary.
So now we would do those as well, right? We do a forecast of what we think our payroll is going to be, and then at the end, it's like, was your payroll this or whatever? But yeah.
That's wild, though. I mean, it is a when you get into that financial audit stuff, like you said, subpoena bank accounts and all of that. I mean, we've had these conversations, again, not financial advisors by any means, but it's like, listen, there are certain things that you can do to try to defer taxes. You're never going to get away from them.
Yep.
They're always going to get you, whether it's timber tax basis, whether it's 1031 in a property. It does at some point. They will get you.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yep.
And so when people are like, I know there's plenty of people that are like, they're riding the loopholes right now, and I'm like, man, you got more balls than me. I dip very rarely in the gray area. If anything, I overpay and I hate it. I mean, I bitch for months afterwards, but it's so that I don't find myself in the back end where I shouldn't be.
Yep. Yeah. Well, like you said, it'll shut you down. People, I'm sure, got a business because of audits. Just, they overlook certain things. I mean, that's what, Nick, I think jokingly said you have nightmares or it keeps you up at night about, missing, like not turning these cameras on. It's like the things, the detail that needs to be paid attention to, like running a business, especially when you have like employees and assets and as time is going on and stuff, like the little things that you could easily miss. You're like, I didn't even know I'd be setting that up.
Yep.
Those are the things that like, not so much anymore, but like on my first few years of business ownership, I'm like, constantly in my mind re-auditing, going through everything, make sure like, how do I make sure I'm not doing something wrong here.
Yeah. Well, and I think
inevitably you will. There will be things come up. You're like, I missed this.
So the deal is, if you're going through an audit and they really want to get some money out of you, they're going to find it. Yeah. It's like OSHA showing up on a construction job. Like, you can have a safety harness on, a hard hat, the glasses, the whole 9 yards. If they're showing up, they're going to find.
Well, it's like recovering a deer after dark, like with a flashlight. It's like if they want to get you for it,
it's subjective.
Most of the time we'll let it slide, but in this case,
we're going to get you.
True,
you're done.
If you're a big name, they'll get you. But if you're just
Joe Blow,
how did you come across that clip? So I think that is where we saw it. I thought
it was a testimony from Brian. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the House committee.
And
I
where was
believe.
it?
Yeah, because it wasn't he going in to get more money or
Yep.
something.
Yeah, it was with the House Game and Fish Committee for Pennsylvania legislature. And
But
Brian
isn't
was
it
doing
amazing
the
how he
testimony.
asked him that question?
Yeah.
Like when he asked them that question, then I obviously just clipped it and put it out there. It's like, oh my gosh, guy. He had to feel like a goob.
Well, it's
So
it's
to our
very-
listeners, real quick, this was in reference to the ex-director of the PA Game Commission basically acknowledged that there is a law against recovering deer after dark, even with use of any light. I
And when
believe
you
is-
say X, he got fired for that.
Well,
They
he got
forced him to
fired
resign.
for a different thing, but yeah, they found whatever.
How
they could
long
find.
after? Do you know? How long after that?
it was maybe a month ago
Almost 2 now.
that he resigned.
Yeah, so probably not much after that.
Who knows? All those guys are super secretive about what happens internally.
Dude, do you know
but
what is so
some
crazy
sort of
about
Amway
the-
scheme or something?
Oh my gosh, the Pennsylvania Game Commission. If I would just have the audio recording, because one of their guys that's on the commission actually called me to do a recovery for him
Okay,
with a drone
That's hilarious.
in PA.
in PA.
Of course he did.
How long ago?
When I first started,
Okay.
and I did not have the phone system I have now. I went through and looked at every phone call I've ever gotten.
not in there.
It's not in there. I'm so pissed.
Well, of course they did. I mean, everybody. It was not in there, and so like that's why it's got so much attention. I'm sure in the past couple of years because it's like there's nothing that's covering this, and there's a lot of demand for it.
But
Yeah.
in the same breath, like we were talking earlier pre-cut, I called when I hit that buck here, and they
Last
told,
year, right?
Yep,
Last
last fall, because I was gonna have a guy come out. They told me no, and so because I knew we had talked with Mike, I was like, well, why not? And they said, well, it's not on the list of approved devices. Da 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 da. And I was like, yeah, so cameras aren't either.
Yeah.
Trail cameras
Yep.
aren't either.
Yep.
And they're like, oh,
Yep.
like they just
Yep.
they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know how
You
to
called
answer.
Mike, right? During that, I
called
would have
Mike,
been my
and
first
then
thing. I was like,
I
call Mike.
called. There was a guy in Central PA, not the one that they ended up doing the sting on, but a different one, and he was about to get in the car to come up.
And you
to
asked
me.
him. They're like, yeah, it's not really. It's unclear, but yeah, you're fine.
It's black. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
gray area.
Yeah.
And so I just by chance, because we knew several wardens in the area, I called Brian, I called some other guys, and they're like, yeah, don't do it.
You know what kind of pisses me off about the whole Pennsylvania game. Okay, when I say this, I don't want to single anybody out, but I'm just saying in general. When I first started it, drone deer, I had people from PA get a hold of me that like you would. You wanted me to come help, and so they got a hold of Pennsylvania, and they said, "Okay, Mike, we'll send you a letter of opinion on why we think this way that you can't use a thermal drone." Never sent it. Never sent it. Didn't say anything. Didn't call me. Didn't email me. Did nothing. The only way I got their attention is to start ripping at them, right?
Yeah.
Like doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And now they want to give their opinions.
Well, they
But-
couldn't direct me when after I pointed out the camera. I think they said, well, direct me to what I'm looking at that says I can't use them. Doesn't exist. There is nothing that says that you can't. It's just omitted, much like trail cameras are.
Well, and
omitted.
that's how it's set up. So, like at least in PA, and I imagine some other states are the same way. Is like if it's not in the rule book, then it's illegal. Like
That's how Missouri was.
by default.
I mean, I was running trail cameras in Missouri in 2000, like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 time frame. Not maybe some cell cams, but mostly just normal cameras. And it wasn't until like towards the end of my stay there that I realized like on public lands, I couldn't run them because they weren't in the book.
Yeah.
Well,
It wasn't that they were illegal. They just weren't in the book, which then made them
Yeah.
illegal.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like drones have kind of like been the thing that's opened this can of worms that now you dig into. You're like, well, what's on this list? I didn't even know about this list of
Yep.
approved devices. And guess what's not on it in Pennsylvania is trail cameras.
That's crazy.
So even right now, that's one of those things that they've kind of fleshed out the drone thing, or at least I assume. I don't know. You can tell us here in a minute where the state has landed with whether you can use drones or not in Pennsylvania. I think it's a no. But with trail cameras, they have not acknowledged it. It's definitely not on the list, and we are actively using them to, in my opinion. They would say, well,
would
are
aid
you
in the
really
hunt.
using it to aid in the hunt?
Absolutely.
So you could make an argument it's illegal to use trail cameras to hunt in Pennsylvania.
I don't think cell phones are on that list either. And I mean, think about like if I'm out driving deer or whatever, I call my buddy. I'm like, yeah, dude, I just bumped a big one. Is that not an aid in the in the hunt?
I mean,
That I don't know.
Seems
how
pretty
is
clear.
it not?
How is what not?
That he just called him and told him that he, bumped a big deer.
Can you see if you can find the list, Nick, of approved electronical devices
dude,
to be used in the aid of
easy.
hunting?
It's like the call, like electronic collars and stuff like
Because
that.
for sure there is some acknowledgement again, that's what I'm asking us to pull up the list.
What do you want me to Google exactly?
Approved electronic devices for hunting in Pennsylvania, at least. Just use that.
So because I think that they have at least tried to cover communication, two-way communication. That's how it reads in Iowa.
I know they do a lot of the handheld walkie-talkies and stuff, but I don't think it talks about cell phones.
So I think hunting comes down to the definition of it.
It does. For sure. It does.
So at what point are we hunting, and at what point are we no longer hunting?
Yes.
That's
the really, with the drones especially, that's the really interesting.
And with the night flashlight thing, it's like, okay, if I'm tracking a deer,
same thing. Yeah.
Am I actually hunting that deer when I'm going to recover it? I'm recovering it.
Yeah.
Until you find it alive. And then you have a decision to make. That's the really interesting one with the drone.
Okay.
Are you hunting it at that point, or are you just killing it?
You have a decision.
Can you hunt without a weapon?
I would say no.
That's a good question.
I would say no.
Well, by definition, and again, these are all on a state-by-state basis. Yeah, no.
I mean, yeah, because a lot of it's the pursuit of an animal, right? That's their definition.
That would be our
hunting.
Subjective answer. I think no.
But like,
you can't hunt without a weapon.
I could pursue an animal right now. Like, I could go try to stalk through and find a buck bedded somewhere right now. Like, I'm clearly not hunting. I don't have a weapon.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting at. It's like the definition. Okay. So.
In the same breath, though, Mike, we would say like everything that we're doing is hunting. I mean, by the technical definition of what the state is going to like use to convict you on something, no, that's not technically hunting. But as we're setting trail cameras, as we're doing
that's because there's no
act of setting up for.
There's no legal definition of scouting either in the book. If there was a legal definition of both hunting and scouting in a legislative
you could
law
make the
book,
distinction.
then you can make the distinction clearly. And frankly, recovery. Right?
Yeah, and recovery, most importantly, probably more than any of them.
Yeah, that's where they have to become clear on their language. But after talking to some of the commissioners, like there's some commissioners at the Harrisburg show that came up to me and they're like, Mike, we're for it, but not everybody. So everybody has to be for it in order for them to like write into law or whatever. And he's like, I asked him, how long do you think it'll go? He's like, Mike, I have no clue. It could be years before they really give their opinion or write a new law.
Right.
What the hell is a firearm that uses an electronic impulse to initiate discharge of their ammunition? Kind of
like a laser?
Kind of.
That's the thing that you've dreamed about hooking up to your trail camera.
Yeah.
So like when a deer walks past it automatically shoots it.
I mean, some of these make the amplification thing.
This is for sure the list right here.
Yeah, this is it. Devices for dogs, GPS type stuff.
Well, here, read the intro on this. The PA Board of, within established seasons, hunters may now use electronic decoys and water. Okay, that's specific to that. Yada yada. The PA Board of Game Commissioners in September gave final approval to measure.
This is old though. This is 7 years ago.
2017.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote something up.
I mean,
now.
there you go. You got lighted nocks, electronic illuminating devices affixed to the aft end of a bolt or arrow for locaking and tracking. So
that's illegal?
No, it's legal.
Oh, it is. This is the legal.
This is the legal.
Okay.
Range finders also legal. Yeah, because since then, we can use thermal for like predators and stuff now in the state of Pennsylvania.
I assume they have this on the PA Game Commission website.
Oh, dude, they're buried.
Yeah, it's so hard to find this
buried
stuff.
It's buried in a law.
Try to go right to the PA Game Commission website and see if
here, just go down here. Right there. That's section 141.18. There you go. June of 24. That's what you want. So firearms, same thing we saw. Electronic sound amplification we saw. Electronic devices for dogs we saw. Lighted nocks we saw. Crow decoys, rangefinders saw. So this is a newer one. Electronic heated scent or lure dispensers. That's new.
That you are allowed to
are allowed. But you can't use them in the areas with CWD. You can use electronic devices for ozone, which would be like an ozonics or something. That wasn't in the old one. Waterfowl decoys, electronic waterfowl decoys, electronic dove decoys, electronic handheld or firearm-mounted night vision and infrared optics used for fur bearer hunting. So that'd be your predator stuff. Devices used to disturb water for the purpose of preventing ice. That's the stupidest thing. That's like that's an aerator. Like I'm putting an aerator in my pond right now.
Well, maybe you're ice fishing and there's something like.
Well, I think it's for waterfowl. So that it doesn't freeze over,
I
so that
see.
waterfowl
Yeah,
wants to
yeah.
continue to use
Yeah.
it. So if you keep your water open, you're going to probably have birds later into the winter.
Interesting.
But that's your list. That's it.
Yeah.
No, nothing else. No trail cameras. No cell phone.
Oh, I see what you're saying now.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's it. Nothing else.
There's only 12.
It's only 12. So no drones, no trail cameras, no cell phones, no walkie-talkies, like nothing. All of that would be illegal per this. To aid in the use of
Because they're not on the list.
because they're not on the list.
Yeah, and
How is it
walkie-talkies and cell
so-
phones should be. I mean, that should be illegal. It should be illegal to call it. That's how I think Iowa phrased it when we're talking about the cell camera thing here and how they can get away with the ban. It's like they classify it as a two-way communication. It would be the same as saying, "Hey, I saw a deer. It's coming your way."
Yeah.
The trail camera is
what's the
essentially
difference
doing that
between?
for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say cell cam sending that to you. That is the two-way.
That's how they made it
communication.
illegal on public land. That's part of it, I think.
Yeah, but isn't that same rule applied to the private land?
I would say that it does. That's where it gets into, and I think Mike and I earlier were kind of like, how do you enforce?
You can't.
You can't tell somebody they can't survey their own private land.
Yeah, from a security standpoint.
They,
Yeah.
I guess they can tell you, but I don't know how it's enforceable without like posting it to show somebody to
that's
say,
it.
hey, you
And people
use
are
that to
gonna
aid
do
in the
it,
hunt.
right? People are going to post the picture, and 6 hours later they're going to post the deer that they killed, and they're
Yep.
done.
Yep.
Stick a fork in them. I will
Stick a
make a
fork.
point to burn those people. 100%.
So if you're using a thermal drone to look for a deer with a deer hunter, the hunter that actually hunted the deer, right? Maybe they got something there. What if you just send me a coordinates of where you think the deer went? You're at home, playing Xbox or whatever, and I'm out there and I'm looking for a deer and I find it. What if I don't give you the location, but I tell you, hey, your deer is dead out there.
Oh,
Are you still
very
hunting?
interesting.
Yeah, I think that's
Wait,
where it
wait,
comes
wait.
back
So
to
what
that
is the
law
question?
definition.
Yeah, because
How
they're
did you
telling-
end that? What's the question?
Because they're telling us we're hunting.
So you tell,
They're
I hire you,
like-
you go find it, you find it, you say it's dead, and then you tell me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And in fact, you can tell me exactly where it's at, and I can go
Okay, so
recover it.
you're saying we could use it then in PA if we do it in that way.
I
Yeah.
would say so. Yeah, I'm fully in favor of recovering. And if we use drones to recover,
Yep.
sure. Where my whatever ethical my
Moral.
qualm with it becomes is if that's not the case,
It's alive.
which there is no way to know until you found it. And so if you find it and it's alive,
How alive?
yeah, that's where.
Well,
that's-
and I mean, the other
yeah,
thing
I don't
is
know.
like, let's say you want to define that as hunting. That would mean you flying that drone doing that would need a hunting license in the state as
Correct. Or permission,
Wait, what?
right? Right? Or
Why-
permission
why
to
would he
hunt
need a
on
hunting
that
license?
land.
because they're defining it as hunting.
Oh, okay.
So if he's flying that drone looking for it and doesn't have a valid hunting license for the state, essentially that's illegal as well. You can't say that he's hunting and also not require him to have a hunting license.
It's not. I don't think the drone operator, unless they're one and the same, is hunting. I think it's still the hunters. You're just providing information. I don't think you're doing anything illegal.
Well, how can they charge this guy in Eastern PA with looking for a deer if there was no deer? It was a sting operation.
Yeah.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
What can we say, man? Another year back with Hoyt. We're both shooting RX8s. I'm shooting 70 pounds in the bourbon, which I love bourbon.
It's great.
And you're shooting 80 pounds in the straight black.
Blacked out as always, man. I got so I'm shooting the 500 grain Easton Arrow this year. And at 80 pounds, I'm flinging that thing at like 300 feet per second. I mean, it's deadly. Put a water buffalo in front of me and he's done.
I mean, we shot it earlier. You literally put an arrow through a brand new target, like never been shot before.
I know. So one other thing that Hoyt is doing this year is they're making all their own strings in-house. And so the quality is top notch, and it just really is something that is setting them apart from their competitors.
Well, what we always try to do when we go to our bow shop, Ultimate Outdoors, is we try to shoot other bows just to make sure that we are really giving everybody a fair chance.
Sure.
The reality is it's a no-brainer. Hoyt stands above all of them every single time.
Definitely. And so right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 20% off any apparel on the Hoyt website. And as always,
Get serious, get Hoyt.
what happened with that whole central PA situation? Can you explain that to us?
So Well, he was set up, right? A guy called him, said, I hit the biggest buck I've ever shot. Can you come see if you can find it for him?
It was a sting. Somebody from the game commission called him.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. And he
So he
showed
went
up
out?
there. He showed up there. He said he got his drone out. There was an adult with a younger boy with him, so they really made it look like this is legit. And he said he took the drone off and buzzed out over a field and looked at one deer, and like that, 2 trucks drove in. The client turned around, walked away.
Really?
And they arrested him.
No, they didn't arrest him. They gave him a choice. You either get arrested or give up your equipment. And
So he gave up his equipment.
Gave up his equipment.
And are they continuing to prosecute him for something?
Yeah, well, technically the first, I don't know what the proper term is, but he got charged for it, but he's appealing it.
An indictment?
Yeah.
They indicted him for it?
Yeah. But how can he be charged for like
It is interesting.
looking for a deer that wasn't even there?
Well, and also the client who set him up, how are they not being charged? Because they essentially hired the service.
That's who I feel like should be responsible. Like not how
Right.
I agree with you.
They hired
How
the
is it illegal
service.
for me, a drone operator, to go out without a
but
weapon? And
it wasn't. Well, I mean, he was law enforcement himself.
I know, but like, from the true definition of being set up, right? Like the dude had to break the law in order to get you to do the unlawful act.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I would hold the hunter accountable. Like you're just providing the drone flying service.
I think they both would be accountable if it's illegal. They're
Yeah,
both
if
accountable.
it's illegal, yeah.
But like in the case, so use my case. If I would have had the guy come out to help me, we both would have been accountable. If we would have got caught, like if we did it, we would have got caught. We both would have been accountable. In this case, the law enforcement officer was the one who had to break the law first to set up the next person,
Which is
to be
what you do
accountable.
in a sting. I mean, that's like if you're trying to catch prostitutes, like you go out and say, hey, will you sell me
Yeah.
Yeah.
sex or whatever? And then
Yeah.
that's illegal
Yes. To catch them.
to catch them.
Are they allowed to do? Like, is there a
I don't know.
definition that, like legally lets them? It's the same with like a drug deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to
Yep.
buy drugs from you.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah.
But if I never actually transact money to buy the drugs from you, am
Well,
I
they
still
do.
breaking the law?
They do. They'll give them the money, and then they'll walk, like just like you're saying, then they're
Walk
out.
up.
And then
Yeah, I
the trucks
would
pull
assume-
in and
Yep.
they raid them.
Yeah.
I know there's a what are those people called that try to write bills? A legislator?
Yeah, legislator.
Yeah. There is a legislator here in PA trying to write a bill to get it to be legal. I don't know how that's going.
So let's quickly flesh out because this is the main moral conundrum for me as far as the recovery aspect of it. I am in favor of drone deer recovery up until the point of finding the deer alive, which there is absolutely no way to know until you've found the deer, right? So basically what I'm saying is to recover it, yes, by any means necessary, I would say we should use to recover it. At the point where you've gotten to that point and you find the deer alive, and your question of how alive I think is valid, then what can be done with it, I think is where I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
Because if you're using that information to hunt, then I would say you've used that piece of technology to locate it, to know that it's what kind of condition it's in, and I'm not going to now continue to hunt it.
Yeah.
That I don't think should be allowed.
Is there a
Yeah,
difference
well,
between that and, you shot him in the morning, lunchtime you go out and look for him, you track him, 100 yards away, he's sitting there, head up, still alive. What's the difference?
You haven't used technology to do that.
Okay. What about using a 4-wheeler and you're driving out?
What about
back?
using a mapping system on my phone to track, how many people are going to be like, boom, start my track. And then they look back and see where they track the blood and mark blood.
Well, this is a highly effective tool. I mean, I guess you have to draw the line somewhere. Like, are you going to say, hey, I can't use boots or like man-made leather? Like, I don't know. It's the same question with like what weapons are allowed in.
That's
in the
why-
thing. Like,
that's
I
why
think you
it's
just
a-
have to draw the line somewhere, and it comes down to probably effectiveness. Like,
It's a
Okay.
faulty advertising. You can't make it illegal when it's not defined.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the
exactly.
problem.
Yep.
Like,
I agree.
Again, per that 12 list that we use, like if I use Spartan Forge, right, and I start my trace and I'm walking and blood trailing or whatever, and I get to where I bump that deer and I'm like, boom, I bumped him. Per that list, that's illegal. Using that mapping software on my cell phone is not on the approved list. You may think that's stupid. It's not a big
No,
deal. It's
I'm with you. I mean, I do.
I mean, that is advancing technology.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And or, I mean, how many times we've all done it. How many times have you been troutling a deer and like we split up because we lose blood? And I'm like, hey, dude, where you at? Boom.
Yep.
Now what is that? Did I just break the law?
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to give legislators some grace. It's impossible to write words that cover, every possible scenario. That's still interpretable and usable. So, like,
why wouldn't you do it the reverse though? Then,
okay,
if it's
to say it's legal unless it's been addressed.
If it's not legal, boom, 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 boom. These are not legal.
Yep.
If it's not on that list,
yeah, don't leave
fair
it
game.
open-ended because then it's in the warden's hand of what he wants to do.
I think the reverse would do better. Like if it said clearly, you cannot use drones to recover deer. You cannot use trail cameras to this. You cannot use two-way radios to communicate with each other. And then anything that's not on that list is essentially fair game.
Yeah.
There's only so much
That makes
creativity out
sense.
there.
Yeah, for face value. Well, there's a lot of creativity out there. That's where my mind goes.
You give people too much credit.
Yeah. Then people say, well, what is a drone? I mean, I can...
Oh, what do you mean? What is a drone? The definition of a drone
I know.
is pretty clear.
I'm throwing a hypothetical in terms of like creativity. If you were to go the opposite way to say, hey, if it's so right now it's like if it's not mentioned, it's illegal or it's classified as hunting. The opposite would be it's only illegal if it's specifically mentioned.
Well, and just use Pennsylvania's list. First, the two that jump out to me on that approved list: heated electronic scent dispensers. Are you fucking kidding me? Like those got the attention enough to become a law? Ozone units, ozonics. Those got enough attention to become a law, but trail cameras haven't even been approved on there? How's that possible? That's I mean, how many people are using a heated electronic scent dispenser?
Enough for them to say we need to write this in as an approved electronic device. It is legal.
No way that it's near the number of people using a trail camera.
Right. Well, it probably comes down to like
lobbyists.
We're saying here,
Dude,
You sure?
Oh yeah, that's where I'm going with it. Somebody that had a company that had a connection got it done.
Maybe.
So like an ozonics, I assume, pushed for the ozone unit to be on there.
You're probably right, but trail camera companies certainly like there's more money in that industry than in ozone. If it was an issue, then they would do the same thing.
Well,
I just don't think it's like classified enough as aiding in the hunt. That's where the question is at: is this information aiding in your hunt, just like the drone thing?
Yeah. How dead does a deer need to be in order to go back in and?
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
It's very subjective. Yeah, I mean,
it goes back to we haven't released the hunters and the drone operator side of the story because they're still going through it. In Louisiana, there was they called it a poaching operation, where a drone was used to help locate a gut shot buck, and then later he was able to harvest the buck because of that information. They wrote the story like they used the drone to go find it, specifically to go hunt it and then kill it. I can talk about it from my perspective. I have all the audio recordings. Once they get done with their court ruling, then we're going to release the straight from the hunter and straight from the pilot of how the story went. But the story went like this: is the hunter is probably a pretty serious hunter like you are, and he went in just outside of town, shot a buck, hit him in the guts, was very upset with himself, got a drone out. A drone guy came from the neighboring state, came down, located the buck. Buck is suffering. Video footage, we have it, and you guys will see it. You can see where the arrow entered in the guts. You can see a little bit of blood dripping off of it. Deer's not doing well. That hunter knows the game warden locally, called him and asked him about using a drone. He said it's okay that time, but he said if you get it out again, you can't. You are then using it to hunt the deer.
Yeah, you found it now. It's still alive. Put it away.
But he went in there, and the deer. He went in not that night. He went in the next morning because he wanted to give the deer time. He went in there. The deer is not in that same bed, but down there they got cut over just thicker and all get out, and he could not find the deer. But he knew that the deer was right in that area because he was gut hit. He's not going to run, 3 miles.
Okay.
And so he called him. He was like I have to find this deer. Like he needs to do what he needs to do to feel good about, giving it everything he's got. And so he went against what the warden said, got the drone out. The buck was like 20, 30 yards, something like that, from where it was originally. And
Still alive?
Don't remember exactly.
Because if it's dead, I would say no harm, no foul.
I assume it's dead. It's next day. And it's
No. Now that you bring that up, I think he was still alive. So this is how it went, if I remember correctly. The drone found the deer. The deer is almost dead. They called in a dog. They're allowed to use dogs to bay them.
Sorry, Mike. What time frame? How long after he shot it did they call in the drone or the dog?
So the first drone was called in that night. Then it was the
within
next
a few
day.
hours.
Yep.
So you're probably like 24 hours later at this point.
Yes, it was 24 hours. It had something to do with if it goes over 24 hours, you're now using it to hunt. So the dog comes in.
Yep.
Finds it, catches it. Dog handler shoots the deer.
Mm-hmm.
So they charged all three, or they tried to charge all three. They charged drone guy, the hunter, and the dog guy.
All because they used the drone, not because he necessarily baited and shot it, right?
Correct. Yep. All because they used the drone. Now, I will tell you that the court that it first went into threw it all out and said it's all bullshit. Like, we're not doing anything. But they're trying to do it federally.
They want to set a precedence.
Yeah, they're trying to say, because the federal law says that you're not allowed to use an aircraft in the aid of a hunt.
Right.
And
that's
so
why in Alaska, when you fly in, you got to wait 24 hours or whatever till you can start to hunt.
So they're trying to still push that one.
Oh.
I don't know that's going to go through. Once that's settled, we will release it because it's kind of bullshit of how they've been betrayed. This guy is a business guy in the town, just stomped his name into the ground like he's this poacher guy. And
well, I mean, I think the it's kind of like, okay, if you recreated it, let's say he did everything the same except the second time they found the deer.
No drone.
Still drone. Brought the dog in. Deer was dead. That guy, the handler of the dog, never shot the deer. It was already dead.
Yeah, well, that's illegal. That's a separate issue. Like, he can't shoot the deer with a gun.
They can.
They can?
That was legal. Yeah, they're allowed to bay. They're allowed to bay the deer with the dogs and shoot it.
Oh, okay.
So
then that part of it doesn't matter then, I guess.
Well, it does because the deer was alive when they located it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm saying, let's say they found the deer via the drone. They're unsure if it's alive. Dog goes in, finds the deer. It's dead. Stone dead. There was no second shot fired. Essentially, the only shot fired was the day previous in the guts.
Then, yeah, it should be legal because they haven't. It's dead. They haven't. That's the line I was trying to draw earlier. It's like you found it, and fortunately, it's dead, so you're not hunting. But the fact that they found it and it was alive means that you needed to continue to hunt.
So unfortunately, from like a morality standpoint, he would have been better off just sitting on the porch for another 2 days, just waiting for that deer to
not
suffer.
from a morality standpoint. That's the problem.
If you ever watch a deer, a big mature buck like this, die from being gut shot,
yeah, it's painful.
Oh yeah,
God, like I can't even.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
like, and so you as an ethical hunter, if I show you this on my screen, and
you want them dead.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I want that. I think is ultimately probably where we land with our feeling on it. Is like we want, if a deer is suffering, has been hit, will die, or, we want the most ethical course to be taken. However, like the law needs to be written knowing that people will abuse it in any way that they can. And
it's impossible to, the moment you put that drone up, it's impossible to say I'm going to find them dead or I'm going to find them alive. You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know until you see them. And then the moment you see them, you basically, per the state, have already stepped over the line.
Yeah. But, okay, so we don't know because I had this discussion with a lawyer from New York. He's like, you don't know, like you just mentioned, but I do believe that he is dead because you wouldn't start tracking a deer until you think he's dead, right?
No, I probably wouldn't have called you and spent a shitload of money if I didn't think he was at least mortally hit.
No,
I don't trust hunters enough to I don't trust hunters' judgment.
No.
I think a lot of people try.
I'm saying personally, like when you shoot a deer, not with a drone, you don't start tracking it until you think it's dead. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to fly my drone until I think it's dead.
However, I will say, and I want to believe that I'm good at it. I'm conservative to say I know where I hit the thing, or if I don't, there's a whole thought process that you go through. Like there's an entire, where did you hit it? I mean, that's the main
what was
thing.
the
Where did you hit it? What was the
after?
reaction? How much did you see? How far did it go? So there's an entire.
Is there blood at
that's
the
the whole
hit?
thing you do. Unless the deer goes down in sight, you go back, you recoup, you call all of your friends who you trust their judgment, and you say, hey, dude, here's what I hit it. Here's how he acted after. Here's like all these different things. Here's the broadhead I was using. Here's my penetration I think I got.
Yep.
All these factors I'm internalizing and saying, here's how long I'm going to give it, AKA how long do I think it's going to take for the deer to expire before I go and track it. It's a judgment call. And people's judgment a lot of times is off. So even myself, with all of that taken into account, I have gone and thought deer would be dead. This one thought he would be dead, and he wasn't. And so the judgment is wrong. Sometimes.
I think where it really causes the conflict, I get what you're saying in terms of like when you're going after, but it really causes the conflict is this whole can't track them at night. That's now just kind of come out of the woodwork, because 9 times out of 10, guy shoots a deer in the evening. You're not letting that thing lay all night, especially in coyote territory.
That's preposterous. Well, it's not.
So what's the difference?
It's not well written. They don't want people to be able to spotlight shoot deer. I'm in favor, obviously, of that.
So let me ask this question, right? So I can't do that, right? But let's assume like that's stupid. Like if I'm gonna go find a deer at night, if I hit it in the evening, okay, it's really, really difficult to be hunting at that point, right? It's dark.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of the time, like if I'm going to look, I don't even carry my bow with me, right? Because
why would you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna get a shot off.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between tracking it at night like that and tracking it with a drone at night? I get to a point the day thing, because if I find them with a drone in the day and I have time to make that approach in daylight, and I understand that, but when it's literally at night, like to me it's kind of the, when you hit shooting hours, the light's off, right? At that point, if you're out shining deer, you're poaching. But if you're out looking for a deer, like I can't say that's hunting.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't say that that's hunting in a normal situation. That would be poaching at that point.
It's hard, man. It's hard to like put yourself.
Is it hunting from your perspective?
Is what hunting?
At night with the.
Like if you're tracking a deer at night, is that hunting?
In what, with a drone, without a drone? What's the scenario?
Either. If you're with a flashlight at night tracking a deer, is that hunting?
I mean, in theory, no. Well, but it could be interpreted multiple ways. Like, and it again, I don't know. I guess for me, I keep coming back to like, you may not know this leading up to it, but if you find the animal alive and it needs to be shot, that is generally, I'm just like, as I'm talking through it, I'm trying to define it for myself. That seems like hunting to me. So if I
still not easy though. I mean, like,
oh my god,
if you're going through, I mean, how many times have you gone through? You're following a blood trail, and boom, you bump it. Deer's just running, like you don't know.
Yeah,
you can't see anything.
I don't think you should be able to shoot a deer at night with a. So even if I had no drone involved at all, if I hit a deer, I think it's dead. I start tracking it. I'm carrying my bow with me because I just got out of the stand. I have my light, and I walk up and I see the deer alive. It's laying there. That's a hard one, because ethically I would say, yeah, you should shoot the deer. And I think that warden should not prosecute for that. However, I can see by making that legal, I can now shoot a deer under a cross or with the spotlight.
I mean,
so that's a hard one.
And clearly I misinterpreted that there was even a law. But I mean, from my understanding, growing up in Pennsylvania at least, I thought I could trail a deer, I could track a deer at night, but I had to leave my bow behind or my gun behind. Like
I'm not sure.
Well, clearly we're wrong. We can't even look for him at night.
No, you can't. They're saying you're still hunting when you are tracking.
Yeah.
Even with no weapon.
Yeah. So again, that's misinterpreting, whatever, 20 plus years ago when I, would think, oh, well, I can't have my weapon with me. I just have to trail. Well, shit, even that was probably illegal back then.
That's wild.
So
well, and
I actually just looked up
Go ahead.
the true definition of hunting just because I was curious.
By whose terms? Like what? Webster's dictionary?
This is dictionary.com.
Okay.
It says
Clearly
to chase or search for the purpose of catching or killing. So if you're even searching,
I would assume catching
with the purpose of catching or killing, which implies that it's alive.
Correct. Implies that it's alive.
So that, to me, that definition in the dictionary doesn't cover recovery of what we believe to be a dead animal.
Yeah, but like, so that would mean if you are searching for a buck right now, with, binoculars, you're hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you would be illegally hunting through the summertime, scouting for them.
Well, and that's where some of the states, I think, the weapon in hand would imply that. So even in Pennsylvania, you can spotlight.
That's what I'm legal saying. You can't just go off on that, like the tracking.
The state law is going to have an interpretation even of that, or their own definition. Like in Pennsylvania, you can spotlight. You can go out on your truck and you can shine a spotlight and you can look at deer. They don't consider that hunting. If it's illegal to do that with a weapon in your car. That's where they draw the line and say that's your hunting.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You're illegally spotlighting. Yeah. It's tough.
It is.
It's tough. Well, and none of us who has the ability to interpret, even the organizations who enforce the law will not describe them to you. They won't interpret them for you. Hire an attorney. And then it's just the attorneys, it's their job essentially to interpret them, but ultimately it just comes down to not if they're right or wrong, how confident are you that they can defend you in the situation where you...
It actually all comes down to the judge.
How's their interpretation.
How's he going to judge you? Yeah. Because, it's just wild, though, that we have these conversations. Every time I am on a podcast, I bring it up. It's like, we're talking about drones in hunting space. If you would have told your grandpa this, 20 years ago, he would have laughed at you. That the drones have the capability of being this good.
Yeah.
I still get it. Like, how do you know if it's my deer or not? I just don't think people grasp that we're not just using the thermal. We're using the thermal to first see the heat signature and then have a 200 times zoom camera to zoom.
Right. Yeah, the technology is undeniably effective. I mean, it's amazing. That's why it had to be addressed. Or still, in some cases, has to be addressed.
Yep. I mean, I know this is taking several steps back, but if we look at the landscape, Mike, in what states is drone recovery by definition legal right now?
Virginia, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio. I haven't heard other ones lately. Tennessee would certain people tell you yes, and then others will tell you no.
But those first ones are like, it's legal. You can do it. Go after it.
Yep. There's a bill being written in New York right now.
Kentucky yet?
Don't know that for sure. I think the National Deer Association, they did their homework on this and released a blog or something.
State by state.
Yeah. According to them, they did the research and they have a list of states that they would say it's allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know exactly where that's at. I'm sure guys could Google it.
Seems like a liability.
Well, I mean, I think the hard part is most of us who are heavily vested in it know our local warden or at least know of them, right? And I would say, just like I did and most guys would do, is like, if I'm not sure, right, or I haven't done it before, and I'm going to call them and gut check it, right?
Yeah.
Even those guys, and they'll tell you they hate it, is that most of the laws are gray. They're not black and white.
Yeah. But those gray laws, what I've figured out is it is insane. If you have a hunter that is like, let's say you're a hunter and you're also a legislator, like a Senate guy, like what you can do. Like Indiana is a great example. There was 2 guys in there that are outdoorsmen. That's what they do. But they put their suit and ties on and they look just like all the other people in there. They got a bill wrote in no time, flat.
Yep.
Got it approved
because they actually wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, a lot of those guys, unfortunately, also abuse things. Like I know Mississippi, one of the commissioners, stocked crickets in his field before turkey season. And it's like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, you're an idiot.
No but way. Did they convict him of that? Was that?
I don't know. But they think
I saw the article.
They think that they're above the law, right? I mean, that's just that's the power hungry, aspect of this thing. Where on the other side, if there are people that have that ability and have that power and can use it for the right measures, then by all means do it.
Yep.
The weird thing about the fish and game side and especially the hunting end of things is like, it's amazing how much opposition you'll get in these legislative arguments from people who have zero understanding of it. Like in drones one thing, but just anything. It's like you have a game and fish committee that by trade should have knowledge and should be active participants in game and fish. And then you get all this opposition on bills that from people that are just like, they have no idea.
Well, when you start getting into topics like even you and I this morning, like it's interesting, to when you dig into like a specific situation or like a problem that somebody's having or like something we're experiencing, unless you like, it's hard to really understand all of the nuance. Just like I wouldn't about the drone situation. I mean, granted, we have face level value as hunters from our point of view. But you being in it on a daily basis, it's like, so much more about it, and vice versa. You and I had a long conversation this morning about like the deer dynamic in Ohio and how we feel like, the baiting, we run down the list there of like how these things are affecting the deer herd and acknowledging perceptions of all of it. Well, people feel this way, they feel that way. And you're like, I thought it was cool that you this morning, you're like, I didn't even really understand that. Like,
I'm just not into
these factors were at play. And I feel like the state legislators are a lot of the same. I mean, how could they be unless hunting is their life, which I can't expect for it to be.
Yeah.
I guess that's why you have to listen to, frankly, that's why I feel like our podcast in a lot of ways and just people having public discussions is like, it does move the needle because it puts public pressure on situations that deserve attention.
Yeah. Yeah. The senator that got this going in Indiana said that any other senator in any other state, that if they want to do this, to get a hold of him, he will help them with the language.
Yeah.
Like the language of how to write it. Yeah. It's like,
well, here I'll pivot a little bit. I mean, dude, what's going on with this the DJI ban thing?
Yeah, so that's also political. There's some American manufacturers that try to build drones and they try to get them into our hands. They're garbage. And so they hire lobbyists to go to DC to tell these lawmakers, off the wall crap that, it's a national security threat. We need to get DJI out of here.
I mean, what do you think of that? Legitimate. I mean, do you think that there is a security threat? Like, is there the potential?
Me personally? No. I mean,
what do they think? What we're using them for is transferring to China?
Yeah, but what information are we sending there that they don't already have
maybe not
from
information.
satellite?
I'll pose this to you as like an unknowing, worst. Like, can they take them over? Is there a scenario where somebody in China or wherever they're coming from can flip a switch and say, we're going to now use these drones and weaponize them for our military advantage over the United States?
No, I don't think so. But see, it's more than that. What's happening?
Because you certainly would have a fleet. Not that they're armed with weapons. I don't know how you weaponize them, but there's a lot of drones out there.
No,
that if you could control them, I assume you could do something.
See, there's a conspiracy of this whole thing with the Ukraine war, right? Like all of a sudden they got scared that we all have drones. I mean, how many Americans have drones? And in Ukraine, they're using drones for some crazy things.
Are they?
Yeah. Like they're putting bombs and stuff on them.
And just like kamikaze them down.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I would
for
be.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some people that say, well, that's why they're freaking out because DJI has all these drones here, and maybe if there is a war, we the people can fight because we have them.
Per the tax discussion, we're pretty well armed. Yes.
Yeah, but no, what it really is
as Biden would say, you need an F-15. Yeah, drones ain't gonna cut it. You need an F-15.
Put one of those in an engine of a F-15, and it might help out a little bit.
Mike's got a not an F-15, but
no, definitely not.
A Cherokee, whatever.
It'll get you there in 4.5 hours.
It's a long way from an F-15. But the whole ban, the talk that they're having is because there's companies that are building drones in America and they do not have
any of the market share.
Yeah, because they're garbage. The drones are not that good. And so they hire lobbyists to try to get DJI banned so they can try to grab some of the market. That is seriously what it is. Like, I'm telling you.
It makes sense. It's just like TikTok.
Yeah.
Do we really think TikTok is like going to disrupt the entire American, like basically China's gathering information that they're not already gathering in other places?
But see what's crazy about this whole bill that if you dig into it, the actual bill that is being proposed is a good bill, but they put this inside of that good bill that they will pass or probably, really good chance.
It's a national security oriented. So you're saying those companies those lobby senators are leaning on national security threat? Like that's the argument?
Yep. They are taking that bill to the security whatever commission, but they put the ban DJI inside of this bill that also funds like the military and does, provides funds for other things that look good.
They bury it down in there.
They bury it. I truly never knew that is an actual thing they do. So we were trying to get it, get an amendment, take this little section of it out and then, push it through. But this lady that's been pushing this, Ellis, I should look up her name, has tried pushing this 2 other times already, because the lobbyists.
This is one individual that's kind of at the head of this push.
Yep.
And who is she? Elise Stefanik.
Stefanik.
Yeah.
Wow. Look,
I was in a band with a Blaze Stefanik. That's how I know.
Yeah. So she's the one that's really pushing it. But really, the companies in America that are pushing it is Skydio and Helio.
Okay.
Because.
And they're just lower quality drones. They're not made as well.
Why
do you think that is? The technology is just not
the technology. Think about this. In China, DJI might have 100 engineers working on one drone. Over here, they might have 2 or 3. That's
because we're all watching TikTok.
Well, no. Honestly, I think it is. No companies want to pour in billions of dollars to make a good product with years of research when they're so far behind the game already.
Right.
They are so far behind the game. If you think that
it's a fair argument too. I mean, other than like if at the end of the day, it's kind of a control thing. It's like from a consumer standpoint, like an advancement in technology, it's like, well, hey, China's got this. Let's just roll with China. It's like, theirs is pretty good. We'll just pay for it. But then I suppose there is an argument for ultimately like national security and like as far as the power struggle, it's like, are we okay paying China for that technology? It's like
what phone you got there? Do you think that was built in China?
All of them were, I'm sure. Yeah.
So it's like
absolutely
national security. I mean,
what applies to way more than drones. I mean, just consumerism in general, like where we get our products from. We're sourcing a lot of things from not just China, but everywhere.
Dude, yeah.
There is a global element of all products. Supply chain.
China is just, as far as electronics, like they produce a ton of electronics.
They crush it.
And it's because probably being able to afford people at a lower wage, I think.
Sure, absolutely. Well, look at manufacturing.
I'm not like for China, right? Like I would love to buy American drones. I would love it. Like,
right, but our people are not going to work for free.
Yeah,
exactly. You're exactly right.
But they also don't work for $18 an hour. They want $25 to $45 an hour just to assemble stuff. So that drone we can buy right now for say $13,000, it's going to be probably $40,000. Yeah. I mean, it proves like a Helio drone. A Helio drone is a spray drone. Right now, to get outfitted with a spray drone of theirs, it's $40-some thousand for a very old technology drone. I can get you into a DJI drone for like $30,000. So you're getting older technology, flying Helios, for more money than you would buying DJI drones.
It seems like in lieu of, I mean, I don't think you can. It's anti-capitalism to probably disallow those essentially, but I do think it makes sense to have to invest in ensuring that we have security if national security is a threat.
There's different tactics. Like they just did, the whole e-bike category just got a 25% tariff laid on it.
Okay.
Because they don't want Chinese e-bikes coming over. Right? They want American manufacturing, which I get. Like as an American, I want made in America. I want American manufacturing to be able to succeed, but like it's got to, if it's a technology thing, like you can't take us back 2 steps because of it.
I'll just ask some stupid questions here, and maybe anti-American, not knowing it, but if we acknowledge that China is so good at producing things for cheap because of their super cheap labor, it seems like that's what we would need to do to compete.
We'll never do it.
Yeah, and we can ask ourselves
we'll never do
so
it
are we all willing to just work for almost nothing?
No.
So maybe manufacturing is not our thing.
But they're going to force it.
What? Who?
the politicians of the United States will force
and
it to
maybe
be an
that's
America
valid.
thing.
And from a national security, like from a
I
power
don't think
struggle
it has anything
standpoint.
to do with that. I think it's purely capitalism.
Okay,
They don't want China to be a wealthier nation than the United States.
that's understandable.
So in order to have that effect, right, we'll lay greater tariffs on those products, which basically make their price come up so that they're the same price as if we produced it in America.
Did you know the tariffs usually are paid by the consumer? Like,
Oh, yeah,
right
it's
now,
passed on.
Right now, there's a 25% tariff on all China drones.
Yeah.
We don't even think about it, but
Because it's
still,
marked up.
But it's still cheaper than
Yeah.
trying to buy it. Well, not even that it's just cheaper. It just works better.
Yeah.
It's that plain and
Yeah.
simple. Like, I just went to South Africa because I was wanting to bring a non-Chinese drone to America, and I went there. The guy seen me fly my DJI. I didn't even fly it because he was like, my drone is so bad.
Yeah.
He told me, he's
Don't
like,
even use it.
my drone is shit compared to that.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is to your point about the consumers, e-bikes being the case that I know, like immediately when that tariff went into place, guess what? MSRP went up 25%. So they're not eating it.
No.
They're passing it through.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, I mean, have you seen Trump's income tax thing that he's put out there? That basically he wants to do away with income tax and offset that revenue by just raising tariffs across the board for import exports type stuff.
well, how do we feel about that?
It'll be
It's not a political
it'll be
stance that I've really given a lot of
It'll be
attention.
nearly impossible. I mean, it'd be awesome from an income tax standpoint. It'd be nearly impossible to make up the amount of revenue. It's like 3 billion. Trillion.
To who? What do you mean?
For the government. The government collects that tax from us as income tax. If you get rid of it and offset it with basically tariffs on other countries, you'd have to make up $3 trillion, which is
It's nothing.
not possible.
Print it.
It's not possible.
Yeah,
and,
right.
and I mean, the other thing is if you increase what we just talked about, you increase the tariffs on all these things, guess what? The consumer is the one who feels it.
Yeah, literally the consumer pays for these tariffs.
Yeah. Because, I mean, whatever, 50% of the stuff you have plus is from China.
No. But back to the ban thing. Like, so they call it a DJI ban because that's getting the people to talk, getting the people to watch is this ban. It's not like all DJI drones that are in America like will just be bricked. It has nothing to do with that. What they are trying to do is say new technology that DJI brings to the market, they will not grant them an FCC license for it. That's what they're going after. So basically, these companies that are building these drones, it's going to give them maybe a little bit of time to try to build their
to
technology.
catch up and eat the market share.
Yep. But all the FCC licensing drones that DJI has already brought to the market, and they've already applied for new FCC licenses that the drones aren't even here yet. Like, it might be in the Ag series. They might be up to the T70. We don't know. But if those have already been approved, those drones are still coming to America.
Right.
Like, so people were freaking out, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. Like, the drones will quit working and they'll be fried. Not true.
No, it'd just be on, at some point, there's a marker set. Everything beyond that is going to have trouble either coming in or it'll be super expensive.
Yeah. Well, I can't recall, before TikTok to me was the first one that was at least notable that was like, oh, we're banning this. Like this, it's a foreign technology and it's a security risk. Maybe there's some before that I'm not remembering, but granted, I don't have TikTok on my phone, but like nothing's really changed, right?
No, they're still trying to push it.
I mean,
I thought it passed. I thought that was like the thing. They're like, yeah, no.
No.
I heard it pass too. But see, even if it passes, it takes a long time for it actually to become law. So,
Yeah.
Even if this DJI ban thing goes through, it doesn't mean that day it's law. Like, it could go 6-8 months until it's actually written into law. DJI, trust me, they got a lot of things figured out.
Sure.
They might push for a bunch of FCC licenses before that ever gets wrote into law. But another thing that pisses me off about this whole thing is these companies that are trying to get this banned, they say, buy American. But their drones, 90% of their components
are not American.
come from China and they're assembled in Texas. They're put together. So if that's the case, DJI, just send me a bunch of parts because I can put your drones together. And now I become built in Ohio, and I'll put one on there that's better than that. It's built in Ohio by Amish people.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got an Amish built drone. I mean, with China parts, but they don't tell you that. Like those companies don't tell you that all those parts are coming from China.
Well, it's no different. Tractor market's the same way. People think Kubota and John Deere, and they're like, made in America. All your compact tractors that most people have, it's all coming from Mexico, Japan, China, and they're just assembled in the United States.
Yep.
They're not actually made here.
Mm-hmm.
The big John Deeres and stuff are usually made here, but the little stuff is not.
Mm-hmm.
Anything under 70 horsepower is not.
Yeah, boy, the global, the way that all works is interesting. And even in this conversation here, I'm sorting out how I feel about it. It's like, frankly, we've bought stuff that and it's probably more like what you're saying. It's bought, parts from China assembled here in America, but like refrigeration parts, like for our ice cream business and stuff. Boy, am I tainted against American-made products. It's like, dude, everything I get is like, why it's assembled wrong. Like parts are come out of the factory broken. I'm just like,
and it's super expensive.
I hate that it's like our own people. But even like, dude, American-made cars, I'm like, I'm buying 4Runners because they're still made in China. That's why I buy them.
Yeah,
Because they work.
Mm-hmm.
They run forever.
Japan.
There you go.
Dude, when I was when I was in South Africa, their vehicles there,
Japan, yeah, you're right.
I just feel like they're put together better than our vehicles here. I don't know why.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Crazy. But this DJI ban, it's not just drones. It's all DJI products.
Okay.
So those little microphones.
Like road mics?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that they build, they're trying to not allow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I get it. Like, I get the, trying to build the manufacturing and technology sectors of the United States. I get it. And to do that, like, you have to make the competition less desirable. But when the cat's out of the bag this far, I mean, that's hard to pull back in at this point.
Yeah. I mean, they got a hard road ahead of them because DJI is already giving their technology to other companies, and they're building a drone that looks just like the Mavic. It looks just like the Mavic. It has a different name and it's a different color. Mm-hmm. And it's not DJI, but it is DJI. Like,
seems really surprising that they can. So in that bill, I guess, Mike, is DJI called out specifically?
Yes.
That seems really strange that they would block a specific company, much like the TikTok thing, versus like you feel like you kind of have to cast a larger net around that.
Well, I think it's because they have the largest market. I mean, they literally own about 75% of the world drone market.
Sure.
Like,
for good reason, though.
Yeah, because it's good product.
Good product.
Yeah. Like, it sells itself.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Pure Wildlife Blends.
Yeah, buddy. We're doing a lot of food plots this year. It seems like the planning, the preparation, like the coordinating for getting everything, in the ground, it's like it just never ends.
Yeah, and I just got off an 18-hour bender where I'm on multiple farms getting everything ready. But this year, fortunately, we've got Pure Wildlife Blends, which is Jeff Sturgis. Who better to partner with for our food plot program than a guy who's got 30 years of experience, been on thousands of farms. I mean, the guy lives and breathes food plots.
Yeah, and so the blends themselves are all handpicked by Jeff, and it's like, man, we've had a lot of conversations with him over the years, and he's been pretty influential on how we set up farms and stuff. And frankly, the product, it's in a name. It's Pure Wildlife Blend. So a lot of these other seeds that you see that are blue and orange or all these things, it's because they're coated with lime and they're dyed, and it's marketing at the end of the day. So we have a lot of confidence in the seeds that Jeff has chose, and that's what we're going to be planting this year. And so right now, you can use code HUNTR10 for 10% off anything on the website.
So if you're looking for switch, clover, brassica, or Jeff's favorite, layer in the rye.
Layer in the rye.
Yep. Check out purewildlifeblends.com.
It's interesting, man, as the world continues to shrink, because I know the other time you hear about concern from a government political standpoint, like a concern is around land ownership, and China owning a lot of land in the United States.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that either. I'm like, well, you can't stop somebody from buying a piece of property, but also at some point, can't you? Does it become a security threat?
You want to have another freaky one?
Sure.
They own some of the largest chemical companies in America.
Oh, absolutely.
That spray our corn and beans and, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't freak a guy out.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Spraying our foods, right? Like we're putting it in our drone. We're putting it in their drones, spraying our crop with their chemical.
Mm-hmm.
This is a small anecdotal thing. We had a guy comment. It was like, he's like, I can't believe you would eat deer off of properties that you're spraying like all this glyphosate and stuff on. I'm like, you think you're eating animals that aren't eating plants that aren't like
bro, I'm eating straight gly when I'm spraying. It's like it's straight into the face. I make that turn and it's just straight into it.
I honestly feel like a truly organic environment is so extremely difficult to produce.
I don't think it exists very often anymore.
Very rare.
We were talking about, me and my business partner, could we survive in America with no chemicals?
No.
I think we'd run out of food.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
I think it would take the earth so long.
Not everyone could survive. We could survive.
Mm-hmm.
For how long? Because if people can't eat, they're going to come hunt you down for your food.
Oh yeah, it creates a tense environment for sure. Yeah, you'd have to defend it.
Yeah. They're going to come looking for the food somewhere.
That's where my grenade laced DJI comes into play. Right into the crowd, baby. Kamikaze.
Yeah. It's a fair question, though. I mean, a lot of people are like, not from a chemical standpoint necessarily, but like, what if I, had to provide my own food? Hunting.
Oh, dude, that's a scary. I mean, you look at, 50, 60 years ago, the number of people that, whether they did it or it was a community, like, could be sustainable.
You should look up
compared to
what
now.
Big chemical companies does China own in America that's used on crop. They told me the other day, but I forget.
I'll put
the
it
name.
this way: I couldn't plant successful food plots and throw gardening like crops in this exact same conversation without chemicals. I don't know how to do that.
I mean, there's using the cover crops and stuff.
Yep.
There's definitely
I would try.
possibilities. It's just a lot different approach.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think it could, but it's going to take a long time. I think 3-4 years until the earth and the soil gets back to its natural.
Yeah, because it's just laced with
Could
chemicals.
you even get? I mean, what happens to the seed industry like with no chemicals? Does that even become attainable? I don't know.
Probably not. You're probably harvesting your own seed.
Mm-hmm.
And selling it, Nick.
Is that it there, Mike?
Harvesting your own seed.
Is that what you're looking for?
No, I thought it was like
Syngenta.
a name. Okay, so yeah, that is it. Syngenta. That is a chemical or pesticide that almost every farmer would know.
Mm-hmm.
Use Syngenta, which is owned by China.
By China.
Its CEO is working to keep farmers trust. Yeah, so that right there, it's like...
So that's it. I mean, it's a Chinese-owned company. They put a U.S. CEO in place as the face, right? The talk, but that's not, the puppet string.
Boy, that's the name you want, too. Jeff Rowe. Mike Rowe's brother. Blue collar. That's a blue collar chemical right there.
Yeah,
I want that on my food.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's... And so that's where, when people bring up the TikTok thing and stuff, and it's like, man, there are a lot of other vulnerabilities. And if you want to talk national security, it's like everything tech, the way that data is the new gold, right? I mean, the way that these companies trade and buy data back and forth is astronomical. And even though they say like, oh, we're not collecting this, or it's privacy policy, that people are collecting it all over the place and they're trading it and they're selling it. So when you get into like, from a national, it's like, unless you're really like mound up with the foil hat, like what national security threat does TikTok present? What's it present? Or what are they going to do? Hypnotize our youth to like revolt?
I would say it's more.
I've never even seen a China person on TikTok.
I think I would say there's a threat. I mean,
for what?
I would say it's in a not in like, hey, we're going to take this I don't think from an information standpoint as much as a consumption standpoint. I think that it certainly has the ability to corrupt.
mind alter.
Yeah.
With what?
Influence. Just by the content that what you ingest, is ultimately going to give you a perception or a...
But it's being produced by other U.S. people.
No, it's not. What do you mean?
The content that's on TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think so. I think a lot of it is...
like Jake Paul and these guys, that they're producing content. I'm not saying they're smart, but like...
For sure, some of it. But
you don't think he's smart? Dude, I think that guy is...
I mean, from a capitalism standpoint, I think he is. I think he's got a few missing screws.
Yeah, I mean...
But, I mean, from a business side, he's been...
Yeah, if you just...
I don't think he's necessarily a good person either. I mean, you're pumping prime into 8-year-old kids, it's probably going to, stunt their growth at 4 foot.
That's Logan. Jake
Yeah.
is the boxer guy.
The boxer guy.
What I'm saying basically is like I guess essentially regardless of where things are produced, it can be edited and put into algorithms in such a way that's like, I mean, there's no denying that like it's addictive. Like there's a dopamine hit there, and there's like you can become addicted to the point where it certainly has a societal effect. Not just that I'm sitting there for hours watching it, but also I've seen this certain number of things so many times, and it was edited in such a way that now I feel this way about it. I mean, look at like our political, like our
yeah, but I mean, so what I was going to say, what's the difference
voting
between that and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube? Same.
the addictive qualities of it. Yeah, I would say TikTok is the most, just because purely the format of how the videos, the time that they are, how they're presented to you, the number of times it takes to click, like that's what's happened with these social media platforms is they've become more and more addictive.
I think they use that to try to get it to not be Chinese owned, because I think it's an American thing where it's like we're consuming more social media content that's China owned than we are maybe Facebook, and then they're like, okay guys, like then they come up with this like it's going to corrupt our youth. I don't agree. I think it's probably pretty bad.
I'm sure it's eroding the brains of the youth. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, spend 15 minutes on TikTok and you feel stupider when you get off, right? I mean, that's, you walk away humming the same damn song that you heard 15 times.
Take that away though, and just purely use it as influence. Like if it undoubtedly the things that you watch and consume influence the way that you feel about certain things or perceive them. And so if it's
just a better television commercial though.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, that was the whole purpose of TV for 80 years.
100%
was to influence you.
It would be really cool if TikTok would only promote like educational stuff and not just stuff that's mind numbing, like
tits and ass.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, I guess from I personally look at, especially, I guess, Facebook more than anything as being more of a negative influence on false news, things that are essentially manipulating your view on what's happening in the world. Like TikTok just seems like a bunch of kids doing stupid stuff.
Oh, no. No, there's a ton of political stuff on there.
I don't ever see it.
Yeah, Trump just went on and he got 6 million followers in like a month or so.
Yeah, see, I don't see any of that.
Yeah.
Well, it affirms,
just search it one time and you're sure to.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. Like
they do have the algorithm figured out.
Oh, dude, I swear to you.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have it on my phone either anymore.
Dude, listen, this is how crazy it is. I'm not even on. I don't have TikTok because I know how addictive it is, and I'm aware of my addictive personality too. So now I have Instagram, which is almost as bad. Literally yesterday, I didn't talk about it. I didn't do anything, but I sprayed off our air vents on my HVAC unit. Okay, it's like it's a process where I hook up a water hose and I go up on a roof and I spray out the vents to get the stuff off it. I'm telling you, like within 20 minutes, like I'm on Instagram scrolling, and like the first thing I'm seeing is like an ad for this specific brush for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, and that's happened on an hourly basis. I mean, years ago we were like, hey, that was kind of weird. That kind of happened, but now we've just like pretty much accepted it. Like they know these things, whatever AI technology, technology is in place there, it knows exactly what we're doing and what you're thinking.
If you have your phone turned on to say like, hey Google or hey Siri,
I don't, but
it's listening to those things 100%.
I think it's listening regardless.
Oh, you think so?
All the time. Okay. I think camera's on all the time. I think the mic's on all the time. I think it's being recorded somewhere. All of it. 100% of it.
No way. That's insane conspiracy. You can't live your life thinking that.
I believe it.
That's nuts.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it in my scenario here. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Other than not have a phone, which is a choice.
I don't think there's any possible way they have the technology to process all of that.
Well, maybe it's not processed, but I think it's recorded.
Where does it go?
I don't know. You think that's impossible? You don't think that's
all because
I think it's our brains that have almost short-term memory loss. Like I guarantee at some point you search for something around those events, and that's why you're getting that ad. I mean, I deliver those ads from a marketing side. I'm the stocky creepy guy.
So you don't think that's happening at all? You don't think that
Nope.
it listens and puts
No, I
things
think it's all behavior-driven algorithms.
Even if it's on like a search engine.
Mhm.
Like
Yep,
there's
anything.
certain apps that like they'll say can track across other apps.
It's the same thing on
Yeah.
the political
You just
side.
Google.
Like
Yeah.
if I'm going through ads, let's say I'm going through YouTube Shorts,
Mhm.
right? Deer hunting thing comes up. I stop for 30 seconds. Boom. Immediately the algorithm's going to throw more of that at me.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's nothing. That's
Yep.
just behavior driven.
Right.
Yep.
It's the same thing if I search for aerators on my pond. Well, guess what? My entire feed is aerators for my
Yep.
pond right now
Yep.
because it's all
Okay.
behavior and search driven.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm on board with that.
So I would assume
That's
it's the
definitely
same.
happening.
If you look for like refrigerator,
Isn't that
parts on
funny how that
Amazon,
happens? Like,
it'll
dude,
get
you go on there and like you see that HUNTR girl, and then it's like you just hold on it for
Well, she's amazing, isn't
Yeah,
she?
it's great.
Something else.
on a second
What
longer.
is that? I don't even know what
Somebody was
It's
what is what?
Yeah, I heard the HUNTR thing or something, but
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
They were interviewing a girl. Like I've assumed she was drunk.
They're like, "What's your number one marriage tip or whatever?" She's like, "You got a HUNTR
Give
on
him
it."
that huck.
Talking about
Spit on that
blowjobs.
thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, see.
Yeah.
Not in the Amish community. It doesn't
No,
happen.
No, didn't know what that was. How do you milk that cow? You got to give her that.
I gotta
Tua.
I gotta come to the HUNTR podcast.
You got to spit on that thing.
Yeah.
Get that milk out.
little English exposure here.
Crazy English.
Yeah. But we get on the TikTok subject because of the whole anti-China thing. I think it's just normal.
It is interesting. I mean, right now everybody's freaking out, right? Because there's like, you've got China on one side. Now you've got North Korea and Russia forming some sort of union in the last 2 days, which obviously has a union with China. So now you've got three kind of powerhouses that have something. And then here's us with essentially a non-functional dad at this point. So it's like, I think there's a lot of different fears that are happening, but from a consumer side, like, I mean, we asked for it. We opened up the world market. We were the powerhouse.
Yeah.
We did it. We let the cat out of the bag. We said, yeah, keep developing and we'll keep buying. Like, that's just, that was what, and now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait, we have an advance. Well, it's because they beat us out. Like I saw something the other day. I think it was like Japan. It was like all the different technologies Japan has that are just everyday life that for us would be like 30 years from now. And I was like, what the hell? These people are living in the future.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely cyclical. I mean, no, what's the word? Not society, but empire.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. I don't know, even know what they are. Rome, the United States, powerhouse, like has ever lasted forever, and it never lasts forever.
No.
And it does beg the question, like at the high level, it's like, what are we striving? What are we striving for? We've talked about this before, kind of like, what do you want? Like, where are you going?
Yeah.
What's that? Is more power over people? What? Like,
yeah, it's power. It's addicting. I mean, but the thing is like, you have to understand there are things that all of these countries have something that the other one wants, right? Like, if China is going to advance technology and have cheaper labor for us to potentially buy drones or whatever it is for cheaper, okay, we get it. Guess what? We have the natural gas that all these other countries want. But our country, for some reason, wants to suppress use of fossil fuels. Meanwhile, that's the biggest leverage we have over pretty much all of these other countries. They need our natural gas.
Yep.
And so it's like, why would you suppress that here when it's the only leverage we really have? We don't have anything to really offer these other people.
it's because of like a green initiative, like at a global level.
So they tell you.
They tell you, yeah.
But yeah, it's like, we don't, let's say, oh, well, we have oil too. We do, but so does the Saudis and everybody else. Like, there's only so many things that somebody has strategic advantage over. And so if you don't use it, you end up finding yourself in a bad situation. And I think that's what's happening here is like, we haven't used that leverage of natural gas for the last 4 years because of Biden's initiatives. And so what does any country need from, what do they need from America besides us, the consumers? They need the consumers because we'll buy it. Mm-hmm. But other than that,
it sounds like you're pretty educated on the whole, like, where we're at with America.
Well, I mean, we're in a shithole.
But like, you must educate yourself, read stuff.
I try.
That's crazy. Because sometimes I feel like I literally have no time to even keep up with what's going on. I'm flying. We're going down south somewhere, and I have my 2 business partners in the airplane, and I'm just sitting there. It's in cruise control, and they start talking about this whole Trump. What did he get indicted for? Anyhow, they started talking about this, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So I think people that consume that type of stuff, like you read, you just keep going and you just fill yourself. What if we don't do that? Like, are we in a shithole?
Well,
like
you can see the dynamic here. I'm in your shoes.
But you know, are we in such a shithole if we don't realize? Like, yeah,
that's a fair question.
Well, I think the dangerous thing is that there are people that will continue to do that, and we don't want them to lead our country.
Okay.
So if all of us who can just say, well, yeah, we don't care, the country's going to go in a direction that we have. It's just like, okay, then don't vote. Well, if you don't vote, even if it's one vote, like, can't bitch about who wins.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same.
I'm with you. You are better off to not know. To have the freedom to not know. To a point, absolutely. Yeah. You've seen the movie like The Patriot, right? It's like, I just want to be left alone. You've seen The Patriot, right?
I think I have.
Come on.
Mel Gibson. Revolutionary War.
I don't know.
They have an Amish version out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So basically, Revolutionary War. It's Mel Gibson, and he's just like just doing his thing,
farmer,
raising his family, living off the land. Just it's
I
great.
I feel like
it's
I've
all
seen
good.
trailers.
But then the war's coming, right? And he's like pulled out of it, and he's forced to acknowledge, right? It's now at his front
British
door.
kills one of his kids, sets him off.
So that's the goal.
Domino effect.
I think everybody wants
America's
to
free.
be free of like, it's great.
Yeah.
You should definitely watch it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, who really wants to be totally encapsulated in that type of turmoil?
So what I'm saying is, like, how much do you consume? Like,
well,
you telling me this, I feel like I should probably go educate myself more.
I think the hardest part is, like, you can't get sucked in to, whatever, ABC or CBS. Like, those are I try to bounce. I like to, because if I use the Trump thing, right? If I watch just ABC News on that, Trump's the devil. He's the devil. He's a terrible man for doing this thing. He's going to go to jail for 20 years. There's no way he's getting an election. Flip the channel to a Fox News, completely different story. Flip the channel to X, completely different story. And so, like, you kind of have to, there is a news story. There it is. But you have to be able to understand, like, there's going to be 4 or 5 different sides of how that thing is twisted. That's the hardest part about media right now, right?
Yeah,
is like,
maybe
what's true, what's accurate. If somebody watches, Good Morning America and ABC Nightly News, and that's the only thing that they watch, right? Or CNN, that's the only thing they watch. I mean, they're sitting in their chair right now, and there's no way that Donald Trump wins this presidency.
Okay.
It is impossible for him. It won't even be close. But if you flip the channel, it's a landslide at this point.
Huh.
Which, you know that, right?
I mean,
different media outlets are, owned, influenced by different political
but I don't
organizations.
consume them. Like, and so sometimes I feel like I'm probably uneducated.
But that's the danger of, like, social media. Like, those are, for better or worse, primary sources of information. You flip on social media and there's every other blog of patriot.america.org or whatever, and every one of them's talking about the same story with a different twist. And so
there's no right answer probably either to, like, how much do you need to know? It's like that probably is driven by, like, well, what is going to affect me or people I care about? That's the level you should probably understand. But there is no way to know all of it. So I take the approach kind of generally that you do is I can't handle the amount of information intake. Like, I've got enough that I'm dealing with on my front, but I also acknowledge that, like, hey, some of this stuff could impact me or my businesses or people I care about.
Well,
so
I'm finding that out firsthand. I mean, I mean, this lady that's pushing this bill is a Republican. Like, and I vote Republican.
Yep.
Dude, that could freaking really screw up my business.
Yeah.
And I understand why she's doing it is because she wants American manufacturing and technology to take
I
off.
get it.
That's a momentum on their side.
And so technically I would have voted Republican, and so
that's the hard part about being partisan,
here.
right? Like, it always goes back, like, I vote Republican, I'm a conservative, but I also consider myself more of a moderate than I do consider myself like a full conservative, because there's plenty of things, especially the environment, that I have major concerns about. But I mean, dude, there's no place in America for a moderate right now. You can't be a moderate. If you're a moderate, you don't have a choice. Like, you just don't know who you are or what you really want. You just are undecided, basically. And it's like, well, no, I'm conservative on this, and maybe I am more liberal on the environment and stuff. Well, you can't do that. You can't be that person.
Well, also voting one way or the other, like, is not going to necessarily give you everything that you want or don't want.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, it comes down to specific issues, which we don't always have the opportunity to vote on. I mean, in some cases, we'd like to see that, bring it all the way back to like hunting regulations. Seems like it would make sense to just do that.
Yeah, but somebody ultimately has to be the smarter of the majority to make the decision.
Not the smarter of, just the voice for.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
democracy is, right? So
I
we
mean,
vote and say that person represents our, generally speaking.
To a point, yep.
But they're not going to, there's just no way that they're going to every time have every single stance that you do on every single issue.
Well, that's where these bills come in. And Fish and Game's the same way. There are 2 or 3 topics of that bill that are like, okay, everybody seems bipartisan on this. Like, this seems good. And then boom, there's 4 and 5 that are slid in there. And it's like literally the ultimate deal breakers.
Yeah.
Which means number 1, 2, and 3 that were a no-brainer benefit for everybody don't go through because 4 and 5 got slid in there.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about when I started drone deer recovery? I never thought that I would be involved in so much type political conversation.
Nuts.
I just got back from Catalina Island, California.
Catalina wine mixer?
Freaking Catalina wine mixer.
I didn't even know what that was till I was there. And it's something Step Brothers.
Wow.
Pow!
But we went to Catalina Island to count deer because I guess there's this big push that there's too many deer on Catalina Island, and then this becomes political. I show up on Catalina Island. Somebody's telling me one thing, I'm hearing another thing, and I'm looking at Jason. I'm like, man, this is political, and we're here to count deer with our thermal drones. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But there again, it's people in power that are saying, eradicate the deer, kill the deer, and then the locals are saying
Protect them all.
protect them.
Yeah, protect them all. Yeah, we don't at any cost, like, understanding management, but don't kill them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. That's the hardest part. I mean, we talked about it with the biologist side of a lot of these game and fish departments. Is like, man, you know, we had Tonkovich on from Ohio, and it's like the dude has proposed numerous things that are to benefit the herd, without a doubt, and no one would disagree. And yet, I think Jared and I asked the question 5 times on 5 different subjects. It's like, well, Mike, why didn't that get approved then? He's like, good question.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of go that direction. I mean, you're from Ohio, right? And have you worked with the state of Ohio? Like, do you?
Not directly. No.
Okay. Is there prospect for that? Is there?
They've never reached out. The state
Really?
the state of Indiana reached out to us. They wanted us to do a deer census in the state of Indiana, but the ODNR has not. I've worked on other ODNR projects, but it was not related to wildlife. Well, it would have been wildlife, but not for deer counts or deer
deer
census.
counts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think a lot of the states,
I think that's a little surprising.
they don't want you to do it because they've been running estimates for so long based on sex, age, kill models or whatever that, you know, the number could be dramatically off.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we just talked about that with Charles when we went to California. He has an organization called Howl for Wildlife, and the data that we were able to get for them on Catalina Island, he started to think like, dude, what could California do with this? Because they're trying to get data on elk.
Yeah.
Now they have wolves and they have bears, and it's like,
Did you see they just made wolves legal to hunt in Colorado?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did for like depredation purposes.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they just put 10 of them in the state.
Yeah, so for livestock farmers and stuff, there's some way now that they can shoot them.
Wow.
Read that yesterday. Sorry, to
interesting.
distract
No,
you.
I'm
But yeah, the wolves are a big issue.
That
Well,
didn't last long.
yeah,
That just happened.
Yeah.
Like the stalking.
yeah. Well, but you're right. I mean, how do you make any decisions without accurate information? And like, certainly drones seem like the best technology we have to be able to do that. It surprises me that neither Tonk or Mike Rex or somebody from the state of Ohio has reached out to you.
I spoke to Mike.
I know you talked to Rex, right?
Yeah.
Just generally about the technology and what it can do.
But not like doing a deer census. I would be willing to help out on that for sure.
What would you charge for something like that? You say, hey, we want to. First of all, how would you do it, and what kind of what kind of a
Well, so
financial investment are we
I
looking
need
at?
biologists to help me out with what is the best strategy, because we're not going to cover the whole entire state. You know,
Jeremy's biologist.
How do we figure
figure it out right here.
You know, how many areas need to be done?
Yeah, it's got to be
It's like
representative
a timber
of the
harvest.
state.
Where do we take samples from?
It's got to be representative of the state. Yep. And then you're going to have some margin of error of miss,
Yep,
right? Like
yep.
whatever, just like we do with a trail camera
Yep.
survey. You know, what's the extrapolation factor essentially? And
When
then,
you say area miss, do you think we miss deer in area when we count?
well, we do in a trail camera survey.
Okay, yeah, in a
So,
trail camera.
you know-
because I
don't know.
I'm hard. If the conditions are right, unless that deer is in a log or under
Yep.
a rock, it's
Yep.
going to be hard for him to hide.
Yep.
or
So I
her.
would say size, right? Because I mean, if you're scanning 100-acre block versus scanning 5,000-acre blocks,
Yep.
if there is some level, even if it's 98% of a capture
Well, there's
rate,
going to be a variance regardless. Like, so, because it's a sample. So what is the
Yep.
factor of
Yep.
miss?
that's
Not
what
that you're missing deer, but that
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I could fly the drones and I could tell you how we can fly those missions and get you the data, but how do we figure out how many areas do we have to do in order to get an accurate count?
well, we did it. What was was it 15 million acres in Ohio? Does that sound accurate?
Nick?
Of total.
The total size of Ohio was 15 million acres, I believe.
Okay. Yeah,
I think.
I would think that's.
we had a
close.
discussion about this at one
How many
point
acres
as
in Ohio?
compared
Yeah.
to something else. But
Okay.
so if you have 15 million acres, you know, the hardest part is like the further you go down, right, the more extrapolation assumption you've got in it, right? So
Yep.
if you go down to like 10%.
Whoa, 28.6 million acres.
Okay. So if you go to 10%, you're talking about nearly
Well, there you
3
go.
million acres.
45 square miles. 45,000 square miles.
45,000. Yeah.
So if you surveyed a square mile as a survey block and you did 10% of them, you're surveying 4,000 blocks.
And that could be done.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, 4,000
482
square
blocks.
mile blocks.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So if you did 10%, you'd have 4,482 blocks surveyed, of which then you'd have to extrapolate over 90% more.
Which would only be 640 acres, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Whoa.
wouldn't be that
Wait,
hard.
what? How do you get?
640 acres is a square mile.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But times
And you're doing
4,000.
4,000.
Times 4,482.
It could be done.
Yep.
But
And then extrapolate. But that's now 10% to the night. Like the,
I mean,
the
dude,
larger
compare that to what
survey.
we're going off of now, which is like responses to surveys.
It's trash.
It's a worse response rate
dude,
than that.
that's what
Way
we were
worse.
saying when we
It's
were in
garbage.
Catalina Island. They got their numbers based on driving the roads end of June to a certain date, however many miles they drove and seen eyeballs.
Yeah.
Then they
Oh, yeah.
multiplied.
Yeah, it was just and then that was their extrapolation factor to then get a population estimate.
Guys, it wasn't right.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
cameras do
it's
the
not
same
even
thing.
close.
I mean,
They-
man, it was like,
How would you execute that? Because let's walk
Catalina
the
Island?
certain. No. Sorry. And like Asona, Ohio, if you wanted to conduct that survey, you've got 4,400. Of these square mile blocks.
technically you wouldn't
to
need
survey.
permission, right? Because we're flying at a
Yeah. No, you
Like,
wouldn't.
All right,
we
so you,
wouldn't
don't,
need
so you
lander.
don't need permission.
Yep.
How would you execute if I put you on charge of that? Let's come back to the budget later, but like, how would you go about logistically coordinating that?
Well, I think it would have to be done. All 4,000 of these blocks would have to be done in 1 month period. So we would probably choose. Let's see here. We'd
You want me to
probably
run some
choose
math
like
for you?
probably January or February. We would choose to fly those.
Which, just from a deer standpoint, is challenging because in those months they're going to be
Yeah, I
herded
know,
into
I
food
know,
source
but see,
areas.
they're also going to be losing antlers.
Yes.
But
Well,
okay,
we're not even getting into
okay, but
age structure
they'd be allowed
or,
to be
sex
in certain areas, right? You would still look at the total data that you got. That's going to give you a count. It's
Yeah,
not
you might
telling
have a 0 here and a 500 there.
Yep.
Because of the way that they're moving around the food sources.
Yeah. So where
So the first-
you decide to sample matters.
First thing you'd have to do is you'd have to take the state of Ohio and you'd have to overlay 640 acre blocks on that. And obviously it's not going to be perfect, right? So on the edges, you're going to have 100 acres here,
Yep.
130 acres there, 480 here. And then you would have a random selection. You'd number those blocks. That's how we would do it. Number those blocks, do a random selection of 4,482 of them. There's your survey blocks.
Wonder how accurate we would be. compared to what they have currently?
I bet you would be better than what they have currently.
Well, so keep walking it out. So I mean, if we're going to determine where we're going to survey and how many need done, we're at that point. How would you go about coordinating drone operators, and how many would you need?
Let's see here. So 640 acres is not that hard to do. We were doing almost 1,000 acres at one location out there. It depends on the terrain. Like, are we in hilly terrain? I think
on average,
I think I could get that done in 1 month with probably 30 operators.
You think you could survey 4,400 different blocks with how many operators?
30.
Wow. So
It's flying all day.
What is the math on that? So I mean, how many locations is each drone operator doing in a day?
I can usually do about 400 acres in an hour.
Okay.
And so if you have one square,
640.
That's going to take me like an hour and a half maybe to do.
And then
there's a lot of variables there too. Like, are there a crap ton of deer in it?
Yeah.
If there's a bunch of deer and I'm stopping a lot,
Some there will be.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's nuts. Frankly, let's call it 3 months. Let's say you get.
You can't though, because there's a spatial and a temporal factor when you're surveying. So you can't. The longer you stretch out, the more
we definitely have to figure out how many we need to get it done in a month.
No,
that's why, like in a survey period, like for trail cameras, it's 10 days, 14 days, like that's it. And each of those has different varying factors for extrapolation based on the amount of time I'm surveying. So the longer you go, the more opportunity that deer are going to be moving and stuff like that.
So that number's, I guess what I'm suggesting here is like, if it's not feasible or possible to do it in this,
I think you have to do it in as close to 30 days, or you
short as possible. Or there's no doubt, short as possible.
Or you reduce the number of blocks and you go down to 5% instead of 10%, which frankly makes it somewhat less accurate, but the time standpoint.
So does the time. Yeah, so you're just trying to minimize your variables.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, dude, that's nuts. And then, I mean, ultimately, the question I'm going to get to is, what does it cost? And then how do we get
the state
Kevin Mullen to pay for Kevin Mullen to pay for it?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how many operators I actually need. So I'm looking at it here. If we would do it'd take more than 30 operators. Because if a guy can fly 400 acres in an hour, but that's variable, and he flies for 8 hours, he's going to cover 3,200 acres, and that would be 5 blocks per day for one guy. I think he could do 5 blocks,
which would work because he needs to cover about 140 to 150 blocks in that 30-day period.
Yep. So it could be done. And I got guys that, when you get really good, you can fly more. Like Austin with Drone Pet, because he's covering so many areas looking for these dogs, dude. He's doing like 2,000 to 3,000 acres at a time himself because he flies faster. But see, he's not counting deer.
Right.
Yeah. When you start counting deer, it's you have to slow down.
So what do you think? I mean, obviously nobody's going to hold you to these numbers, but like what would it take to fund something like that?
Okay, let's see here.
And be conservative with your numbers. I mean, now we're saying what, maybe more closer to 45 or 60.
So I kind of know what they want to,
or go the other way.
They kind of want
cut the blocks in half and do 2,200 blocks instead of 4,500 blocks.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
which is normally what you would do on a large scale project. You would cut down the number of surveys and just do a larger extrapolation.
Okay.
I don't know if the guys won $1,000 a day and they fly for 30 days straight and there's 30 of them, gets pretty pricey.
So 30,000 times 30.
Yeah,
3 million.
9.
No.
9 million.
Which is why most of these things are funded through universities and grants.
Yep. And that's very reasonable offer. Like, think about flying your drone for that long.
It's a $10 million project.
Yep.
Interesting. And that's, I mean, really just to compile the information. Somebody still would have to interpret it. And
and you'd want to, I mean, it would slow it down, and so maybe it goes a little, but you would want to try to capture buck doe. You would want to try to capture maybe some imagery type stuff.
Yep.
Again, that's all process.
Yep.
And I don't know, AI technology is advancing so fast and machine learning that you probably can process it pretty quickly. But
dude, when I was on Catalina Island, I seen the value of herd counts or deer census for sure on areas that are enclosed.
yeah,
So there's a bunch of islands in America, like there's Beaver Island, Mackinac Island. On the East Coast, there's a ton of them as well. There's a ton of deer in areas that if I were on an island or if I were a conservancy or a DNR, I would do drone surveys.
yeah, because it's essentially a closed population.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, I would think Texas, I know for a lot of the managed land deer permits, they have to have some sort of survey census done in order to qualify for those.
Yeah.
Most of them fly helicopters, but that's like $15,000 to $30,000.
Yeah.
And multiple days.
I did one in Oklahoma that he was in one of those programs.
Yep.
And he had to get approval. He wanted to know, can he still be in this program if he uses a drone? And they said absolutely. And so they hired us to go to Oklahoma.
And I'm sure it's a no-brainer, faster, cheaper, probably.
Yep. Yeah, it was cool.
Interesting.
It is crazy to think like all the places that I've been to, anywhere from Wisconsin, Oklahoma, the East Coast, counting deer and how many deer are actually around. It is insane.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Like when you were talking about deer numbers, like if the people would actually know how many deer there actually are, I think we're just seeing like a small amount of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Agree.
Mike and I earlier were kind of like getting into the, as it relates to how many deer there are discussion. It's like, what is the herd dynamic? Because it's like, Mike is not like we are every day having a conversation about like, well, what are we seeing as far as like an age structure, like a buck versus doe. We are hearing like, hey, there's a ton of deer, and that seems at odds with our conversation, which is frequently like, hey, the quality is suffering because of our lethality, our ability to kill them.
Yep.
And so, it is interesting, I guess, to confirm, like, there are a ton of deer out there. And I think per our conversation with Tonk, like, maybe we weren't as aware of that, but I certainly would believe it.
I think deer as a whole, I think it's because guys like us pay attention to bucks. And, I mean, think about, like, how many times do you give a second look to a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old buck? Not very often anymore.
Sure.
So
or doe groups, especially. I mean, it's antlerless.
So you're thinking
deer
about,
numbers, I think they're getting out of control.
You're thinking about, 3, 4, 5-year-old bucks, and there aren't that many of them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of deer, but there aren't many of that sex in those age classes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to even guess, like, at a national level, I bet you that the 3-year-old and older age class of bucks is less than 5% of all deer.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, like we used to do a lot of trail camera surveys and on a lot of acreage and, highly managed 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 acre blocks. And if you looked at trends and you looked at the age data, about 40% of the deer on that property were 1-year-olds, buck-wise, right? Maybe 25, 26%.
Of the deer or of the bucks?
Of the bucks.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not aging does.
Okay.
Of the 25, 26% were 2-year-olds. Maybe 12%, 15% at the most were 3s. And then it was like single digits for 4s and 5+.
Where was this?
All over the country, everywhere.
Okay.
Like, and it didn't matter if I was doing one in Missouri, Mississippi, Georgia, like,
yeah, well, there you go.
All
just
about
like
the same.
Extrapolate that over.
And again, I'm talking highly managed properties. So if you go to non-highly managed sections, it's going to be 50+% 1-year-olds,
well,
30+% 2-year-olds, and then trickles for 3, 4, and 5.
Even the word, highly managed is subjective, because some people will manage a heavy doe harvest and some won't.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but I'm talking strictly bucks.
Oh.
Just buck age structure.
Oh.
I'm talking guys passing bucks to grow mature bucks. That is the age structure you see.
Well, and how does highly managed influence that? Because
they're passing them. They're passing bucks. They're trying not to kill bucks till they're 5+. And I mean, in those cases, I was giving them an album to say, shoot these deer, don't shoot these deer. And they still couldn't get them above single digits.
Assume there's a displacement factor there. Because I think just
Oh yeah, it's not a closed population.
your numbers, older ones are going to leave for more room.
But I'm just saying from a realistic standpoint, I don't care if you've got.
What's that?
What do you need?
I was looking for a bubbler. It's all good.
Are there any left? I'd have another one.
Yeah, you want
if you got one.
Let's see if they're in there.
If you have to, Mike, there's a restroom out there if you need to jump. Yeah. We've been walking out several times. But yeah, I could go for another bubbler here. We may not have enough. That's only a 6-pack, huh?
No, I'm good. I'm hydrating with the agua. If you...
Is there enough? Oh, nice.
If you look at...
I like that.
If you look at that from... Okay, so that's...
They should sponsor you guys.
I know. The bubbler. We've been trying. Just bubblering out while you're droning. If you think about it on that population side, like it doesn't matter if you've got 50 acres or 500 acres. The reality is that you're probably not going to have more than 12 or 15% of your bucks be 3 and older, or 3-year-olds. Sorry, not 3 and older. 3-year-olds exactly. 7 to 10% 4-year-olds, and 7% less 5+.
Okay, so what is that? What's that total block there?
20, 30%, 3 and older.
Is it because they're
and that's
being
way higher
shot
than I
younger?
guessed.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
then-
not a
and
closed population.
And that's the only reason is because they're being shot, not because
correct.
coyotes or...
No, I mean there are natural mortality factors, but I would say the majority, even in these highly managed populations that are not, I'm not talking high fences or closed populations, but highly managed open properties, the neighbors shoot 3-year-olds and they shoot 2-year-olds and they shoot 4-year-olds. Like, so, if I went back and I looked at hundreds of thousands of acres that I've done deer camera surveys for over the last 20 years, I would assume that the average is less than 30% of the bucks are 3 and older on any given property.
That's higher than I would have guessed.
I bet if you looked at your property, it's that.
My property, yeah, because I'm passing them.
Yep.
And there is other factors too. I mean, deer die. Like it's just it's a tough life. It's a high,
I think
high
it just
rate of
depends on
mortality.
it. Like in Pennsylvania, it's probably 20%, 19%.
19% just die naturally?
No, that are 3 and older.
Oh, okay.
Correlated with hunting pressure.
Correlated with hunting pressure and even just, the hunting culture in this state versus other states. It's getting better. At one point, I would have said it's less than 7% or 5%.
Yeah. Well, hunting definitely, I would say, I would assume that of all the factors has the highest influence on that number
No
right
doubt.
there. The age structure of bucks.
No doubt.
There's other things that affect it. I think just like the nature of bucks as they grow older. And I don't know what it is. Maybe at a certain point they're more likely to survive, but they certainly.
Well, there's natural mortality at older ages. More intense fighting causes like brain abscesses and stuff. So,
yeah, how many fights can you have before?
In those older age classes, you have a higher rate of natural mortality from things like that than you would at like a 1-year-old age class. But then there's other ones that are kind of non-biased, which is like deer vehicle collisions.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I'm thinking of the non-biased versus, you could even throw CWD into
or
the
EHD.
bias.
Yep.
EHD?
Non-bias.
Non-biased. I would say
Non-selective.
CWD bias. So they say.
So they say. I mean, bias towards bucks over does for sure.
And older bucks over younger bucks.
Those words that you're talking about, I didn't realize how much effort people put into CWD and EHD.
Chronic
and
wasting disease.
I didn't know that there was a difference, and I made a video and pronounced one or mentioned one
Over the
wrong
other.
Over the other.
Yeah. And people.
You idiot!
Yeah, they got all up in the front. They're like,
God damn it!
Yeah.
Well, CWD is probably more controversial, like political. It's like it's more like COVID in that it's like a long-term.
More like COVID. It's
very
funny.
much so. Very much so.
It's just funny that we have this word that we can now use.
Yeah, use as a comparison.
Well, and so we use it to compare not just the virus, but the mitigation effort. And so like much like during COVID, there was like a lockdown and attempt to stop the spread. States are doing the same with CWD by like termination efforts. So they're like, we need to reduce the deer herd number
Wait, can we use big spray drones to spray them or something? Maybe that'd slow it down.
They do use drones, I think, to spray for bugs.
Midges.
Which would be that's on the EHD side. EHD.
Yes.
EHD. So EHD is usually a quick death.
Oh,
so
okay.
it has to do with like these midges that are in mud flats, and so during like drought times of the year, they'll bite deer and they'll die within a few days. Not 100% of the time, but there's a high rate of death.
Okay.
So they're very different diseases in terms of how long it takes to kill them, and
and even causes and yeah. So yeah, I mean, when you get into that's because I think a lot of people maybe get discouraged or like, man, I only saw, a couple 4-year-old pluses, and it's like that's probably normal for your herd dynamic.
Well, who's ever been discouraged by seeing a couple 4-year-olds?
A lot of people, I think. That
maybe on your highly managed, depending on where you're at.
If you're just like, man, I'm passing deer, I'm managing. You have to be like, I can't get these deer past 4.
That's true. I'm that guy.
You're that guy. Yeah, you're that guy.
You got me.
So it's just, but that's what it is. That is the true, because of all of the factors in play with open border, not non-high fence farms, like that's what they end up being. That there's a lot of obstacles for that deer to get to a 5+. That's why it's less than 10%. Probably closer to 7% or less that are ever going to be that in your over. So if you got $50 essentially on your property, maybe 2 or 3 are going to be 5 and older.
Well, and that's a national average, right? So like Pennsylvania, in certain
that's going to be a lot
lower.
lower.
It could be none.
And
in Iowa, it could be 10.
So how many deer do you think become either old grandmas or old grandpas that just die because they are just so old?
Not many.
No way.
Depends. Yeah. Well, it depends where.
Does probably more than bucks for sure.
For sure more.
I mean, but in Missouri, 10, 14 years ago, I killed a 15-and-a-half-year-old doe.
An old age death in wild animals is just inherently rare because nature's cruel. You know what I mean? That's why I say deer
nature's cruel and hunting is aggressive.
Yeah.
Those are the things, and vehicle collisions are often those are the things that all,
and disease and predators and even bucks kill each other a lot. I think they gore each other or they get abscesses in their brains from fighting and stuff. And
in that case, it's like, okay, let's say a 7-year-old buck gets an abscess in the brain and dies. Like that's kind of old age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a natural cause.
It's a natural death
from something else, but I mean, it's kind of a, it's just that's likely not going to happen in a 1- and 2-year-old buck. So there's some certain, I think, deaths that are going to be attributed to older ages. Mm-hmm. But I would say your does probably are living longer.
You're likely to get a broken hip, and that'll do you in.
Yeah. I'd say your does are likely living longer. I mean, that age structure could look a hell of a lot different.
They're escaping a lot of the hunting pressure.
Yeah, and I mean,
nobody's targeting specifically like the oldest doe that they can.
Yeah, and even still, like I mean, I've watched a field of does, and I'm like, that's I'm gonna kill, and it's a 3-year-old doe, and it's like I'm sure there were older does in the field. It's just she was the biggest.
Yeah.
It is kind of wild to see just mature, even the does, because it's like we're after specifically mature bucks, and it's like there's just something about their body composition, the way they carry themselves, that like gives them away.
Yeah,
it is interesting, and they're probably underappreciated, if not hated, for how because they blow hunts
they're
and
smart.
Stuff like that.
Yep.
These old does, like so. If right now I'm generally aware of like the buck age structure on my farm, generally, I would agree with it. Yeah, there's in a given year. If I have like 4 or 5 resident 5-year-olds, like that's a really good year. Boy, there's got to be 10 or 15 or 20 does that are probably pushing 10 years old.
Wow,
if not older. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to.
There's got to be, because even though we are hunting does, I don't
survive.
I don't base my hunting of does on age. A doe's a doe.
Yeah,
basically.
adult. Yeah, most people, when a doe is an adult, it's 1.5.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not a doe fawn.
Yeah.
Other than that, you don't, like, people will say, well, I try to shoot 2.5 and older because they're likely to have 2 fawns, where that 1-year-old's probably only going to have 1 if they're trying to reduce populations. But in the field, you put a 2.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old doe.
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, really, if anything, you're trying just not to kill a button buck.
Yeah.
That's
the main
it.
thing.
Other than that, I don't care if it's a doe fawn.
Which sometimes is harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
like.
I mean, I'll take.
Maybe at 20 yards that I'm studying them with binoculars. I'm like, are those buttons? Is that a?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's always
They got a
usually
calic.
if it's the first one out in the field, that's him. Dumbass.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's I think the compositions that start to look. But that's why if you go back to that survey, of Ohio, like if you're gonna do it right. Like get as much of that other data as you possibly can to pull in.
Have you been very involved in surveying of deer herds?
Yeah.
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 How's that gone for you? I mean, that's kind of, to me, came after the recovery aspect a little bit, right?
So I give them the data, but then I don't, I'd need a biologist to
Interpret.
I will give you a count, and you do with whatever.
And do you give them the recordings and everything?
Yeah.
And if you see a deer, are you using the camera and stuff to get?
Yep. Zooming in, seeing if it's an antler versus antlerless. And I say antler versus antlerless because I don't know if it's a button buck.
Yeah.
Like, could I do a button buck survey? The button
Maybe.
buck's going to have to really be big.
Which is fine, though. I mean, because if you're going into it, true. Most of the time when we talk buck to doe ratio and stuff, we're talking about adults anyways. Doesn't matter about the fawn side of things.
So I've gotten to see some really cool areas, and I always ask them before I start, like, where do you think your count is?
Mm-hmm.
And, dude, there's only been like 1 or 2 farms that were close.
Yeah.
Really?
Everybody else is like way off.
Way off.
Way low usually. And
They're low.
You find way more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Dude, I felt so bad for this big farm in Kentucky, 2,500 acres. He was guessing he probably had a couple hundred. We ended up counting over 600 deer, and less than 100 of them were bucks, like antlered.
Wow.
I mean, it was a bad deal. I felt bad because he's seeing the problem now. He sees what he has to deal with, and to try to get it, somewhat.
That's huge, though, to know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's huge. There was times when we would be flying our patterns and coming up on top of a knoll or something, and there's just like 15 does laying out there. It's like, this guy's got some serious work.
I would love to know.
I'm going to fly my Kentucky place is, it's really interesting to me in that from a reporting side, they kill less than 120 bucks a year in the whole county.
Jeez.
Which, compared to like most of our Ohio counties, they're killing 3,000-4,000 bucks in a county. Yeah. And even surrounding counties in Kentucky, they're killing, 2,000 here, 1,500 there, 120 being checked in. And like, it's noticeable that, there's a fairly low deer population, right? I mean, it's mountain area. I've planted up 7 acres of corn, and like, they didn't really touch it last year, but it also wasn't cold. And at the end of the year, they did start to get into it. So that's one where this year, especially after the season, that I'll fly. And I'm just curious because, like, I don't know. I mean, is there 30 deer on that 275 acres, or is there, 130?
This is the part where you're going to get shit, because they're going to be like, yeah, everybody that has money is going to have these drones, and they're going to do what you are talking about doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, well, I could technically do the same thing with corn piles and trail cameras if I wanted to run through it all, but like, I have for years.
How much would it cost to hire you or somebody? What does it cost to do a drone deer survey?
It varies based on the acres and how much timber. But if we would get a call for say 3,000 acres and 80%,
go smaller. Say I got 100 acres.
Oh shit, that's 500. I mean, I won't show up for less than $500.
So, but the other people will, right? There's people out there that offer the survey.
Probably.
Yeah. So, but for $500.
Yeah.
$500 plus travel, I assume.
Yeah, but is it important to do a survey on 100 acres?
It'd be more of just knowing, I think. I mean,
at a landscape level, no. But will an individual pay for that? Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like
most people don't own over 100 acres. I mean, that's a lot of land.
Like my 275 in Kentucky, in that area, minus the Daniel Boone National Forest public stuff, is probably one of the largest tracks in that area. So if I can know what's on my track, like that's pretty influential compared to how everybody else is. Now, what I don't know, and people could have problems with it or not, is like, I would fly mine to figure out what's on Daniel Boone National Forest, which is adjacent to me, and it's hundreds of thousands of acres.
Yeah.
And I mean that's where I talk with the game warden in my county, and he's like, man, I've seen some just giants just pop out of there, hit a corn pile, go back, and probably die in there at 10, 12 years old, because it's just, there's not easy access, it's hard hunting, and it's just giant timber. So like people just don't hunt it, and those deer just die in there of old age.
Huh.
I mean, it was a couple of years ago. Remember, I pulled that buck that had like the velvet injury and stuff on its antlers. It was just like all like just spiky stuff coming out.
It was alive. Yeah.
Yeah, deer was ancient. And I'd never seen that deer before. It was coming out hitting a corn pile in January because I was feeding towards the end of the season. And came out of Daniel Boone and then disappeared back and never saw it again.
Never did see him again, huh?
Wow. You said spiky, made me think when we were in California, first time ever, I've been all over the place looking for deer. We found what they call a cactus buck.
Mm-hmm.
This thing
that's exactly what Jeremy's talking about.
I mean, he had bases probably like that.
Well, dude, that's what happens here eventually. I think I want to say it's the same, whatever diagnosis or something is like they just keep regrowing.
Yeah.
So like in the same way, I don't know, maybe there are subtle differences, but this one here, just like I believe it didn't shed its antlers. I think the cactus deer are the same way. And so what happens is just, they just keep regrowing year after year over. That's exactly it right there.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
Yeah. Just came out. And I mean, like you can tell, like this deer is just like ancient. You know, and just
it was like that, but his just kind of went straight up.
It was like 5 days, and then just
no way
gone.
Yep.
Never saw him again.
Huh?
Yeah.
How rare are cactus bucks?
I would say pretty rare.
Yeah.
Very, but I know a handful of people that have killed them.
It goes back to like use of cameras and stuff. Now it's like, dude, most deer can't hide anymore.
Now that we know about.
Yeah, they can't hide. Like people, it's like how many 200s are in the country? It's like, well, most people know about them. There are a few that are still ghosts, in like big Kansas areas or even in the West, but like
these deer act different too. Like if it is in fact like a testicular, like or some sort of testosterone issue, like I don't think they breed per usual. Okay. So you can, like, I killed him on the second day of the season. And the first day I had an encounter with him, I just goofed. I blew it up. And it was like he was kind of easy. Like he was just there. Okay. Granted, they weren't rutting yet anyways, but like he just was a deer that just lived there, and he was just solely dependent on on a food pattern. So like that could be my sole thought process, and I would have killed him at any time of the year doing that probably.
Huh. Interesting.
So they're just kind of like a little different animal in that aspect.
I remember that one my dad killed in Kansas that had the nuts recessed up in it. Like we flipped it open, there were no nuts.
Huh.
And they were recessed. But that deer, like from a body standpoint, like it was peak rut, and he didn't look like peak rut.
Yeah.
Like he was just real sleek and didn't look like a doe.
Well, this one too. This one had an incredibly, you can't tell just looking at it on its own, but its neck is really small compared to what a buck his age should be.
Yeah.
He just didn't swell.
Yeah.
No testosterone.
Like they do.
Needs that, what is that, TRT?
Yeah, TRT.
Mike asked me if I was on TRT earlier. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever told the story. In college,
you should take that as a compliment.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we like that.
I appreciate it. I heard about this testosterone thing. It was the first time I was hearing about it. And they're like, oh yeah, that's how you get jacked. I'm like, huh, interesting. Like, yeah, I was like, inquired about it. They're like, you just get it at GNC. I was like, okay, yeah, seems legit. Like, so I go to GNC in Pittsburgh there, and I pick up my testosterone pills or whatever, and I go back and I took literally, I think 2 pills, like in whatever rate it said to take them, and like, dude, my nipples started getting puffy. Like when you go through puberty, like you go through a little phase of that. I started getting some of that.
You were lactating.
Not quite, but I mean, probably well on my way. And so I think it has something to do with like if you already are like raging with testosterone, like at that age,
you are jacked already at that point.
Yeah, it like whether it converts it to estrogen or it has like the opposite effect.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's what it does.
Can. Yep.
Just like I think some anabolic steroids and stuff can give you like man boobs.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that was my TRT experience. However, you can quote me on this. When I get of age where I got some low T going on, I will be supplementing. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you listen to Rogan, you're going to.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Is Rogan TRT?
Yeah, he's on some kind of testosterone therapy. But he's sense. What, 56?
Yeah.
56?
I don't know how old he is. Something like that.
Here, I'll throw one in here. I don't know when this is going up, but by the time it is going up, I'll have some content released of me using heavy lift drones to actually carry meat off of mountainsides. How do you guys feel about using drones to carry either your deer out or your elk and that type of thing?
I'm for it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. It's a big limiting factor. Like, well, yeah, I mean, there's variables to consider.
I think it classifies kind of in the same as, at least if we're talking like, packing out and stuff, it's the same kind of weird area of like recovery, and that like I don't want that animal to go to waste. So now if I've killed it and I've recovered it, and I have a tough time getting it out before it spoils. That's a good point that
you bring that up.
Like,
that's your main thing.
Didn't your dad and them do that? Like they found that elk, they got it out, and then it was all spoiled.
Well, and here's where, and this is what's I really enjoy.
It's good that you bring that up, because I wasn't sure what my target's going to be, because I just released like a little short about it, and it's like people are saying like, oh, here we go, getting soft or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe, but I mean, I want my meat out and not spoiled.
But he laughed first.
I did that.
And here's why I enjoy all of these conversations is because, like, dude, at the end of the day, like Jeremy and I told you this earlier, like, I'm not going to tell people how to hunt or a dead deer's a dead deer. I don't care. But it is intriguing to try to assess how it's going to affect the dynamic of hunters and hunting. So I think that, like, I could see a lot more people going on. Mainly elk is the hardest one to pack out, but bigger game hunts without outfitters because of technology like that. Granted, you know, at least a certain demographic or population is going to say, well, I need actually guided. I need put on them. But a lot of us would say, well, the only reason I don't do an elk hunt by myself or just me and Jeremy is because we couldn't pack it out of there. Like, even if we killed one.
I don't think a lot of people think that far ahead. I think a lot of people go out and once they kill one, they're like, oh shit, now what I do? And then that's when it messes up because they haven't planned to pack out or do anything. It's like, you know, how many people I've seen training for elk hunts and they're like eating a salad. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, well, I got an elk hunt this fall. I'm like, yeah, you got to work out. Like, can't just eat a salad. Like, I ain't going to do shit.
Yeah.
But that's just...
Well...
That's the mentality.
Yeah, less fat to carry around, but
yeah, you still have to work out.
Yeah.
Well, dude, elk are heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, elk are heavy.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, dude, you need.
But this is a big drone. It's
a big animal.
Did you see?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sure it can carry
I
out.
just picked up a generator the other day, a 12,000 generator. So in South Africa, do you know what an eland is?
Yep.
I don't.
We packed out an eland. I shot a kudu, packed out a kudu.
No kudu.
A red hartebeest is the size of like a mule deer. But when I pack these out, it's not the whole body.
It's like quarters.
Yeah, quarters. But I will be going to the western states. One western state for sure with an outfitter, like you're saying. He's seen me and he started thinking about the areas where he hunts. And he's like, Mike.
Oh, dude, if I was an outfit, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, Mike, we cannot go into this one area because we can't get the elk out fast enough. And that's, you know, there's some big bulls in there. If you can figure out how you could use a drone, we can get it out faster. And I'm like, dude, I can use a drone and get it out. So we're going out to a western state and we're packing elk out. And awesome. The way they're going to do it is they're deboning it. He's putting it into meat bags, and then we're hauling them out.
Well, the alternative, like what they do now, is most of these outfitters, most of the wilderness that I've hunted anyways, doesn't allow for motorized vehicles. So they're horseback exclusively. And it takes basically 3 horses and 1 guy to get an elk packed out to the trailhead. And it's a significant time investment, and it's hard on the outfitters, basically.
It is interesting because there will inevitably be a bunch of people that say that's going to ruin it, right?
Oh,
the reason that the barrier to elk hunting is there is because it's hard. You know, and anything we do to make it easier is going to have more people there.
Ooh, that's
and they're not wrong. Yeah, they're not wrong. It's just, you know, it's anything. It's like e-bikes. How many people are taking e-bikes up, and your dad and them drove e-bikes, and they said it was so much easier having those things.
Well, they're all double-edged, right? It's like you can't have a positive. Like, nobody's going to say, I don't want you to get your meat out of there effectively and in a way that's able to be used. That's obviously a positive. But yeah, how that influences people's decisions about, like, oh, well, I can get away with this, or, you know, and I can now go to this.
Well, that makes them overconfident in things because they have fallbacks. Whereas without those things, there are no fallbacks. You're packing in your gear, you're packing out that game. You know, if you've got an e-bike to get in and you've got a drone to get you out, those fallbacks give you almost a false confidence of you being able to be successful out there. So more people are going to do it. I don't even know if it
is false. I mean, it's maybe a real confidence in a real technology.
The other side of that is, I mean, Colorado cut their over-the-counter elk tags for non-residents. Can't do it anymore. It's gone.
There is no more over-the-counter.
As of 2025 or 26. Yeah.
Really? A statewide?
I believe so, yeah.
I didn't know that. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Sever.
Well, one of the biggest things that we always talk about is what our arrow setups are. And this year we're shooting the Sever broadheads. I think we're both shooting the new 2-inch titanium broadhead. And so, you know, we're huge proponents of expandables. And I know we've had this argument back and forth with people, but
We're right and you're wrong, and you just need to accept it.
We just want to have a giant wound that pumps out blood. That's the bottom line.
We build our arrow setups and shoot bows, to maximize penetration, and we shoot broadheads that are going to give us the best blood trails, the most hemorrhage possible. And so part of those setups is we're also shooting the Easton arrows here coming up pretty soon. So we've shot the Victory in the past, and there's all kind of great arrow shafts on the market, but like we're looking for a whole system from broadhead to arrow components to the arrow shaft itself. And the more we look at some of these Easton shafts and the components that go with them, that setup's going to be really deadly for us.
Yeah, I'm actually using the Easton traditional axis right now in my traditional setups for both my recurve and my longbow. I've got a 100-grain brass insert on those, and then obviously I'm using a fixed blade broadhead on those specific shafts.
Right on.
So, but yeah, our goal is always to be shooting the best broadhead that we think is going to be the most lethal for our setups. We've done plenty of research. We believe in the Sever broadheads, and we hope you would check them out at Sever Broadheads as well. What were we talking about?
Packing out elk with drones.
Oh, yeah, and we were talking about how that, inevitably could increase the amount of pressure, but...
Let me go one step further here.
Yep.
Because we've talked about this. We've all read Willy Wonka. We're aware of like the sky elevator. You know what
That's a chocolate thing?
Yeah, the chocolate factory.
it's like a chocolate thing, right?
I'm sorry.
You never read the book or Gene Wilder?
He grew up Amish. What do you want?
I did grow up Amish.
Amish. Have you read that book? Seen the movie?
I think I've seen parts of the movie.
Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory?
Yeah.
There's a thing with a sky elevator, and it's like this. It's like it's fictitious. It just has no bounds. It goes wherever it wants. Okay, so think about a drone. Here's where I'm at with this. So not just like packing meat out. What if I can use this drone to? I mean, how many times have you walked into a tree stand, or you can imagine access is a big issue. What if I can use a drone to drop me right into my stand?
It's coming
to take me to and from. I'm sure the technology. Yeah, we're going there.
Coming.
That to me is way more applicable in a whitetail scenario.
I'm telling you, there's drones that are built right now that could carry you to your stand.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure. And why I don't own one is what my question is. Where we're going there.
It's like a mini helicopter.
And is that used in the aid of a hunt? I mean, absolute, right?
For sure.
I don't know. Yeah,
it will be.
I don't know.
But
that is an intriguing one to me. So there's getting meat out. Yeah, that's certainly.
I mean, assume this
applicable for the Western
pretty
world,
expensive at some point when you're flying a drone.
Yeah, but no, wait.
What about we need an Uber for a drone service?
But if you fly out, from Ohio to a Western state, is that using an aircraft in the aid of a hunt?
Yeah, exactly.
You flew out there the same day.
Exactly, same day.
Gray area. Yeah.
Can you imagine just walk out of your barn? I got my lumbar pack on. I got my lone wolf, or maybe not. It's already hung. Whatever. And I've got my bow on my back, and I hook up, cinch up on my saddle, and I just throw my drone up and get it up there a ways.
Yep.
And I just rip over and I drop myself down quietly through the foliage.
And it'll go back home and land, and then come back and get you.
Come clear the field for me. Run the deer off the field, and then come pick me up.
Yep. I'm telling you. Or like the one that'll happen this fall for sure is you're hunting in the timber. You think you're way back out in, no man's land, and all of a sudden you hear this faint little noise, and you look up and you see this big bull head flying on a drone.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's gonna be nuts.
Have you guys seen any of the Amazon drone stuff yet?
I have.
Like actually dropping packages and stuff?
Not I've seen it on YouTube, but not real life.
I haven't seen it yet.
Is that in use?
I don't know. Seems like it, or it's supposed to be.
Certain areas.
Yeah, I've assumed big cities.
Seems super doable at this point.
Yeah, the only thing that's slowing it down is the FAA regulations. That is what's screwing up our advancement in flying things right now.
Is the FAA.
FAA, yep.
Which is why probably I assume other countries are already doing all this stuff because they don't have near the bounds.
Brazil, they are just sending it.
Really?
For sure in this whole drone spraying thing, they are so much further advanced than we are because they didn't have the rules and regs we do. Now, we will catch up to them at some point, but...
Well, I mean, hell, you can't even buy certain chemicals unless you're licensed.
Yep.
In the states.
Yep.
Or in certain states. Like when we buy atrazine, we can get it in Illinois, but I can't buy atrazine here or in Ohio or in Kentucky, I don't think.
Right.
So just buy a bunch out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
With a pesticide license, you can.
Yeah,
Or no.
pesticide, herbicide license.
Yeah.
You have to have it in order to get it. But most people, like most food plotters, don't have one.
Yep, correct.
That's why they use Gly and Clothidim and all the stuff over the counter that you can just buy whenever you want.
Yep.
Well, I mean, so Mike, what's where are you guys at? Like with your, I know there's a few different businesses, not just drone deer recovery. There's one on the ag side as well, right?
Yep.
Are you guys? I assume this time of year, that's where you're spending most of your time.
Oh yeah, we're super busy right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do agricultural drone spraying as a service, but now we also sell those drones and teach people how to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got into trailer manufacturing. I created.
You have those custom trailers?
Dude, it's freaking wild.
Yeah.
Like we created a trailer that is built to be efficient to run your drone spray business off of. And it's the only drone trailer that was built with a flight deck up top and mass produced. Mark my word, everybody that's building trailers next year is going to have the same trailer.
And you got like water buffaloes on it for pumping water and stuff?
Yeah. Yep. It has a 2-inch pump on it. So we have a 1,000-gallon tank in the bottom with a 175-gallon induction tank. So if you do your mixing in the 175, suck your water out of the back, pump it up into the drone. It's always circulating, keeping it, moving. Pump it up on top. You get your hose, fill your drone right there, land it, take it off. Nobody's in your LZ. It has a one solid composite deck up top, so super light. The whole trailer weighs, the last one that we weighed was 6,000 pounds. By the time you put the water in it, you're right there at 14 to 15,000 pounds.
Is that a gooseneck?
No, bumper pole. We do have a gooseneck as well if you want one. Bumper pole with the bumper. You only have like 13% tongue weight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
right there where
super
you're
light.
wanting to be.
Yeah.
The reason I tell guys go bumper pole is it's easier to resell if you're looking to
Sure.
sell. And I want to use the back of my truck as storage.
Right.
So put a cap on your truck, throw your drones in the back, have a security place, or have a place to sleep if you're on the road spraying. Because if a guy is into this business, this type of business, using drones to spray, you're going to work your ass off for a short amount of time. But work hard.
It's
will
basically
pay
like
off.
a lawn care business, like on a commercial ag side. If I'm thinking about those kind of guys, right? Like it's the type of setup you're talking about.
Yeah, but the business wouldn't be like a lawn care business because it's really one or two applications maybe.
Yeah, it's not a repeat
Yeah.
customer every
Yep.
other week or every
Yep.
week.
But it is every year. And if you can stay up and fly, you can make some serious money. Like people call my bluff when I said, drone deer recovery, I did $50,000 in 10 weeks. I freaking did that because there was work there to do and I didn't stop working until everything was done.
Much work as you want.
Yep. It's the same way with spraying. Like if you are a hard-working guy and you have the acres to spray, as long as your drones are flying, you will make bank. Like last year I did 11,000 acres in 24 days, made $132,000, got paid $12 an acre. Dude, I mean, I spent $100,000 to get my drones in my trailer. There is no other business that a guy can get into if you have the acres and get it paid off that quick.
What's the barriers to entry for somebody that's looking to do that? Like if I said, okay, cool, I want to do this. Like what, are there certifications? Are there different state regs? Like
So you're going to need your Part 107 license. And then once you get that, you're going to have a Class 3 medical to fly a drone.
Interesting.
This is where I get some of these rules do not make sense. But then if I go deeper into it, you will understand why they make it like this is. So airplanes and helicopters, they really don't like the drones because it's going to take some of their acres from them.
Absolutely.
So they have lobbyists in DC pushing what rules a drone pilot needs to have. Because currently, if I have a sport pilot's license, I can fly an airplane without a Class 3 medical. But you're telling me to fly a drone over 55 pounds, I'd have a Class 3 medical. Doesn't make any sense. It's just a way to slow
it down.
Slow it down some. But a Class 3 medical is not hard to get.
Is that in person or is that
No,
online?
you have to go to a FAA medical examiner.
Yep.
Not hard. You can schedule that.
What is a Class 3 medical?
So there's different classes. So an airline pilot flies on a Class 1, and then a cargo pilot that hauls cargo flies on a Class 2, and then I would be flying on a class 3 today, like flying
Like an actual pilot.
Yeah.
So do I have to take the actual coursework and stuff to also then fly the drone? Like, do I have to go to flight school to fly the drone?
No.
Okay. This is just like a online test type thing.
Yeah, so you're Part 107. Are you Part 107?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what you need. And then you need a Class 3 medical. You go to a medical examiner. He will, knock on your knees and make
that's
sure.
what I'm asking is why is it called medical? That was confusing.
I
to me.
thought it was like a specific license.
That's what I thought too. So you're just saying a medical exam.
The medical exam.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's you hold that.
They're like, you look good. Your nipples are a little
Turn
puffy,
your,
but
turn your head and cough.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
like
Yep,
the
so-
mustache got you through, Nick.
Yep. So you have that. So your Part 107 tells you that you're allowed to fly a drone up to 55 pounds, but
Okay.
not over 55 pounds. So in order for you to fly a drone in America currently over 55 pounds, you have to get an exemption from the FAA saying that on your 107, we will allow you to fly a drone over 55.
And that's the class 3?
No, this is called an exemption. It's called the 44807 or 44807 exemption.
44807.
It's all paperwork stuff, and we can help guys with that if they want to go through it. And so you get that exemption, and then you have to apply for your N numbers. Now, an N number for your 55 and heavier drone is more than just going to dronezone.com and registering with the FAA. This is like if you registered your 55 pound and heavier drone and it was easy, you did it wrong. It has to be difficult. It's like
Yeah, somebody's got to cup your balls and you got to cough.
yeah. So you send paperwork off to Oklahoma, you get an N number, you bring that stuff back. Now you send your 44807, your N numbers, your pilot certificate, you send that to the Part 137. Now this is another certificate. This is to allow you to spray poisons from the air. Once you get that,
Like China's doing.
yep.
I'm licensed to spray poison from the air.
Yeah. Once you get that, that's when you're ready to go. But there is a bridge option. A bridge option meaning while you're applying to get all your own stuff, you can operate under someone else's.
Like a trustee, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter.
So,
Interesting. How long does that process generally take?
well, see, it's not good. Right now, a lot of people weren't following the rules, and they are bigger companies, and they create content, and the FAA showed up randomly and did an inspection, and they didn't have a pilot flying a drone. They just had,
Some dude.
yeah, they had some dude flying it, didn't have a registered drone, didn't do all those steps I just told you, and now they basically stopped approving any new 44807s and making you do the N number and the 137 before you get the exemption.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense? So what you had to do first was 44807, N number 137. Now it goes 137, N number 44807. That way they know you've done all these things, and then they will grant you your 44807. We haven't gotten a new one approved in like 60 days.
Wow.
So yeah, it could be 3 to 6 months.
Mike, I have to say, it's pretty amazing that an Amish kid is in this position. Like, I mean, I think everybody's probably thinking it at this point, but it's like, you're talking stuff over my head that I grew up in technology world.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah. I don't know. I feel blessed for sure. I give the Lord all the credit for this because really, I don't know if you guys are spiritual or if people that are listening to this are spiritual, but really that's where it comes down to. This success was a dream, a vision that the Lord gave me.
Yeah. It's a destiny.
Yeah.
And it's come so far.
Oh yeah,
In just
we're
a short amount of
getting
time,
Started.
Yeah.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, we're just getting started.
Well, it seems like, I mean, obviously you're providing the ag side as a service, but I would assume just kind of like the drone deer recovery at some point, logistically it makes sense more to enable other people to be doing that stuff than for you guys to be. You're only, a few guys, like you can only do so much as a person.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
So I've had people ask me that, why have I taught people? I'm basically teaching my competition.
You're giving away the secret sauce type of thing.
I am. And it's like, if we go back and we talk about how drone deer recovery was originally structured, I don't remember what the talk was when we first talked, but we had this licensee program set up. Like that was the wrong way to do it. because I pissed off a bunch of people by doing that. Say you called me and you were number 7 person in Indiana and you wanted to be in Indiana, I would tell you, nope, you can't
happen.
Yeah, you can't do it because I didn't know how much demand was there. And
Territory space.
Yep,
yeah.
I wanted to keep everybody busy. Well, what happened is all those people that I said no to said,
We'll go do it ourselves.
Yeah, blank you guys. We're going to go do it ourselves. And then they started creating their own little group. And then they, basically went against Drone Deer.
Yeah.
To each their own. And after seeing this, I was like, we got to pivot. Like, these people are going to do this either way, with us or without us. And there was so much work there. There was way more work than all of our operators could do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was so much work there. And so once pivoting away from that and how we're structured now is way better. I definitely screwed up. There was definitely money lost by not letting people come in. But
it's with any business.
Yep.
You didn't know.
Yep.
I mean, you had no idea what you were stepping into.
Yep, had no clue. And then, people asking me, like around my home place, there's literally probably anywhere from 15 to 20 people within a 15-mile radius of me. Right there at home. Wow. And am I getting as many calls as I was year one? Probably not, because there's more people to...
Sure.
Literally, at some point, every hunter will know a buddy or somebody that has a drone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, but for me to let that affect my service-based business, I'm like, no, I'm not going to let it affect it. I think... collectively, we can all come together, right? If you're my neighbor and you get 2 calls and you can't get to the third one, just, if you want to hand it off to me, I'll do that to you at some point.
Yeah, just
but
refer
it got so freaking cutthroat now that it is just so miserable that he's like, no, I'll do it for $125. The next guy's, well, I'll do it for $100. Pretty soon, if you started to do a drone deer recovery business for money, you're going to be doing it for free. Mm-hmm. But then I go back to tell people, if you started only for the money, don't start at all. Because if you are only here for the money, it's not going to work. Because if the moment I show up and I only want to take your dollars and I'm not here to truly help you try to recover your lost deer, and I'm only there for the dollars, the experience you have with me is shit. And I tell you, this has already happened. I was at a show and a guy come up. He's like, how's it going, Mike? And started chatting. He's like, had one of your guys come out this year and it was a horrible experience. And I'm like, my guy? Like me? Like from my office? He's like, well, he looked like you. He had the logo and he had everything like it. I was like, get me pictures. And so now I had to go through it. And come to find out, it was an old licensee custom or operator. But it was not him. He came to the training. He looked like Drone Deer. He acted like Drone Deer. Him went home and hired somebody to fly his drone. Well, that guy that was flying that drone, he was just there for the dollars. Mm-hmm. And he was not there to help.
Well, are you guys, do you still have the registry online? I remember, I think it was the last time we talked, you were like, we are going to just allow... people can just sign up and have their information and stuff available on the website, and it's more of a registry.
Yeah,
is that still how you have it set up?
Yep. So we have that. We had that end of last season where anybody with a thermal drone could list. Mm-hmm. We are now switching that up this year. I will only allow people that have a Matrice 30T or better to be listed. I no longer approve baby drones. I call baby drone like a Mavic 3 thermal. I'm not going to allow that because when somebody goes to dronedeerrecovery.com, they are expecting drone deer recovery quality drones.
Yeah, equipment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, not just drones, but people. I mean, I remember when you told us that the first time, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that.
Yep.
Because it's like there is no vetting process to put them on the site.
Yep.
And I suppose having a certain level of drone demands a certain level of investment, so that's one way of doing it.
Yep. So a new thing we're implementing on the website this year, and it's a huge investment in this. How Kevin is setting it up is we are going to have a buyback guarantee, basically. So if you hire a thermal pilot through Drone Deer Recovery and you have a horrible experience and you can prove it, there's going to be a process of how he's got this set up, then if it truly was a bad experience, then that individual will no longer be able to be listed on the Drone Deer Recovery website.
Yeah, there you go. That's a way to hold some accountability. And that's the only way you have a bad experience is just basically an unprofessional person or somebody that treats you poorly.
Yep.
That's the only way you can have.
I mean, I'm sure there's still skill in flying these things.
I
so,
see.
I mean, if you,
you
have
could
a
be dissatisfied
I mean,
with the service.
if they just like blowing through there and they're like, I can't find it, I'm not doing this. Like,
I guess if you put it like that.
Gotcha. Or they wreck the drone into your house.
I mean, I have a full 30T setup. I've only put it up in the air once. And I got it late in the season, so like things were starting to green up.
You have flown it?
Like I flew it once. Yep.
Yeah, like flew it around or just up and down?
Just around the house and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you find anything with it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was looking at deer, but that was I had to wait till the season expired, right? Because we're still hunting in the area. But and by the time I got to Ohio and Kentucky, everything was green. Canopies were filling up. So like, this year will be like the first year with really. But I've got the case with the TV screen and everything.
Yeah. Nice.
And I'm intrigued by the survey aspect of it. I really would love to know on my property in Ohio what's there.
I mean,
yeah.
And are they where I think they are?
I think that. I mean, from a business standpoint, like my wheels are spinning on like a deer grow truck with a sprayer and a trailer.
From a business standpoint,
like
absolutely.
if I had, it can't be me because I'm too busy. But if I had somebody to go around and be spraying liquid fertilizers and
dude,
so you had some
it's
tanks
gonna
out
be
there.
a whole business. Mark my word.
Yeah,
in
it's a
the
no-brainer.
food plot business, there will be drone food plot applicators. That's all they do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the amount because I take my. Well, in this case, I'll take my UTV and my 65-gallon sprayer on a trailer, 5 hours to Kentucky or 3 hours to Ohio. By the time I do all that, if somebody said, "Yeah, I'll go and spray whatever those 6 acres for $500," done. Here you go.
Yep.
Knock yourself out.
Yep. Yeah, we just did it today. Jay is doing a 5-acre food plot for I think it was $550.
No brainer. Done.
It's a much smaller industry than the
Oh,
ag
yeah.
industry.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it'll be just like there's a whole industry around farming and there's equipment that's used for it, and then the food plots are kind of like
Well, it's more
what's
specialty.
left over.
But I mean, it's just as much demand. I think it's just more specialty.
Yes, and way smaller acreage is why there's not there will never be as much money in deer food plotting as there is.
Well, but there's plenty of people who could make an entire career out of just spraying food plots.
I think so. I think so.
No brainer. I know for a fact they could. I mean, there was a point 10 years ago when I was going to just plant food plots for people, and I could have made a career out of it, but I would have been gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess. Yeah. So what kind of a business do you want to run? I mean, you're going to be.
I mean, I guarantee.
It's like Mike saying, you better love it.
I would say somebody could go around in a tri-state area and probably make $100,000 spraying food plots.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you'll be charging more
area?
per acre, and you probably won't even be charging by the acre. You'll be charging by the project.
Yeah, by the job.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you become a dealer for like something like deer grow and get 30% markup on stuff.
The thing with that type of business, that's more lawn care type business. Like you're gonna probably come back once a month, maybe every 2 months or whatever it might be.
And just quote them out.
See, with these, well, now you got that liquid fertilizer. That's great stuff because with the drones, you can also do granule stuff. So if you got to spread lime, you can do that. If you want to do some cover crop, you can do that.
Yeah, if I've got a 5-acre felled bean field and I just want to do seed rye, 5-acre bean field with a drone.
I did a demo for Lee Lakowski. And
we were literally on the podcast. He's like, "Yeah, some drone guys here." And we're like,
he was watching it. He was like,
"Is it Mike?" And he's like, "I don't know." And then it was Mike.
Yeah. And so I'll probably release that video on the Drone Deer YouTube channel by the time that they're listening to this, but it is on the New Way Ag channel. I didn't even have to sell it to him. I mean, I just let it do its thing.
Tell what to him?
Sell how good it is.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh yeah, I could use it for this and that, and my sprayer won't do this, and I'm like,
oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of limitations. You know what I mean? We struggle with spraying as a challenge.
Yep, challenging time
requires
frame,
a lot of equipment.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of different things. I mean it's a service. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, when's the last time you had to mow your own grass?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's just because it's more convenient and it could be economical, and you just have somebody else do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so going back to where this started is, some people were calling my bluff in Drone Deer about $50,000 in 10 weeks. Now I'm saying I did $132,000 in 24 days, and they're like, there's no way. No, there absolutely is a way.
Oh yeah.
They just don't understand the economics on the commercial ag farm side, like what those guys would have spent had they done it a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's not
well,
surprising to me. There's a ton of ag acreage in demand
Yeah,
for that. I can
that's
see
what
that.
I'm saying is how many actual acres need sprayed. Like it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if guys want to travel, because that's like how a lot of airplane operations work, is they start in the south and they move north.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going, say, Florida, start there, and then by the end of the season, put 4 long months in it, dude, there's a lot of money to be made spraying, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what would you say? So if you bought the ag drone and the trailer, you'd have about $100K into it?
Yeah, so it's 2 drones, the
2 drones.
two drones, the trailer, the tanks, the pumps, the batteries, everything you need. I think right now it's $103,000.
Why 2 drones? Just
More efficient. So
you're running both drones at the same time?
so you should have 2 pilots.
Okay.
Some people may or may not run 2 drones, 1 guy, because it's monitoring. It's really, once you get the boundary set and you get the drone put out there,
You're just watching it.
you're just watching it.
You could be refilling one
Yep.
as the other one's
Yep.
going out
Yep.
and switching off.
Exactly. Like, because if
Also,
you
you
have
might
the
crash one.
if you have the trailer set up, like, and you're waiting 8 minutes for that drone to come back or 5 minutes for that drone to come back, you could literally have another drone covering the same amount of acres.
So 2 drones, trailer, that comes with the 1,000-gallon tank.
1,000-gallon tank.
And that pumps up to the 175.
Yep.
Where you're mixing.
Yep.
And then filling from that into the drones.
Yep. Correct.
How frequent are accidents with drones?
If you don't know the system, then you are likely to crash a drone. But the drones,
I myself have wrecked 2 drones.
But
personally.
the drones are getting so good. The drones are getting so good. Like, so these ag drones, they have cameras on them plus radar. So radar in the front, radar in the back, and actual vision cameras. So DJI, if the radar is on, you did not manually turn the radar off and it crashes itself
That's how
into
it
a
crashed
hillside,
mine, yeah.
hillside, they will stand good for it. You sent the flight data and they see that their radar didn't see it, that crash will be covered by DJI.
For the record, my experience with DJI like repair has been very good. Granted, I have a bottom of Maverick 3 type deal. I sent it in. They sent me a pre-shipping label. It was like $200, and like I had it back 2-3 days later.
I know it is
great.
Absolutely amazing.
Jeremy's
how
got one
good
to send in right now, right?
I was like, why is this thing not flying right? And then I looked and the arm's like,
One of the arms is dislocated.
Yeah. Yep. No, their service is so good. And again, if we go back to where we started this thing, it's like if a new company wants to start right now, they have such a hard time catching up with where DJI is at.
Right.
Yeah. It'll almost be impossible. And I think if DJI would actually like not be allowed in America because it's called DJI, I think DJI will just start a company.
They'll spin it off.
Yeah, somewhere else, and it'll be called IJD or something, and then they'll be.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if DJI buys some of these component providers in China, just shut off the American manufacturers from building. Why wouldn't they?
Oh, good idea.
Why wouldn't they? Right? Like, who's giving them part? Just buy them.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Like, and I don't want people
Capitalism, Nick.
that are
Capitalism.
listening to this, because I've already had comments like that. I'm for China, like this whole thing.
Mike Yoder for China.
No, I would love to have an
Amish and
American
Chinese collusion.
I would love American drones, but there just is not a good option.
No, I mean, what are the other options? DJI is like I know there's whatever junk spinoffs out there, but what are the other like drone companies?
Well, there's
out there?
the big one that's trying to push this bill right now is called Skydio.
Never even heard of it.
Because they're trash. Like, I mean, why would you talk about something why would people use it if it's not user friendly? It doesn't work as well. Everything about it literally is like stepping 5 years back. That is their technology right now. And then Helio on the ag side.
Electing Joe Biden, basically.
4 years.
One in the same.
Your show's going to turn into like a Steven Crowder show.
Yeah, right.
What's the other guy that's like always worked up? He's like gonna blow a blood vessel.
Alex Jones.
Alex
Yeah,
Jones. I love the pain because the pain is the truth.
I heard he's basically gonna probably have to shut her down, huh? Because he's getting sued from the Sandy Hook.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Is that why?
Uh huh.
Okay.
Wow.
They're making him pay.
Who's suing him?
The families of Sandy Hook,
Wow.
and he has to pay them back.
For what?
Like
He was the conspiracy theorist around all that. He said it didn't happen, basically.
yep.
And that harmed them.
Oh yeah, mentally. And so I think it was like $1 billion or something. I mean, they did it in a way that he would have to sell everything.
It wouldn't.
So.
Yeah, they'll never collect.
Wow. That's pretty wild.
So much for freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's that mean? Like he's just bankrupt and...
Yeah, I mean, most
he's
of
Alex
those.
Jones, right? He could file bankrupt.
Well, was
and
it was it criminal or was it civil? I assume it was civil.
I don't follow it enough. I just seen a couple.
If it was
clips.
a civil case, it just like it wasn't this latest one with Trump, but whatever the lady was before that who got him for like $70 million, like it's civil, like they'll never collect. There's no enforcement essentially.
Right.
Criminal there is, right? But in a civil case, like the judgment has been set, but now you got to actually collect it, and like it's. Who was it? OJ Simpson. Like his ex-wife family sued OJ for over the won in civil court, though he won in criminal court. They never collected anything. Never happened. Now they're fighting his his trust or inheritance now that he's dead.
That's interesting. He single-handedly led the effort to say that was didn't happen, that Sandy Hook didn't happen.
I don't know if he was single, but I think he was one of the loudest voices on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember hearing that. Like,
I would assume
it
he
didn't
was
really
one of
happen, and
one of the loud, but besides like normal YouTube conspiracy theorist type things. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's interesting. You're right. I'm sure he will.
I haven't
probably
gone
have
down
to
that
shut it
rabbit
down.
hole. I assume at some point they proved that it did happen, which obviously was the original.
I mean,
How can you say something like that didn't happen? That's pretty wild.
yeah, I don't know. There's still a lot of people that believe that it didn't happen, that it was all staged. Which, I mean, well, you got to have
That's
some.
maybe for another podcast.
You got to have some.
read through the evidence.
You
that
have
would
some freaking stones to call out potential 6-year-old kids dying being fake.
Dude, is it is it true? Well,
you better have some good evidence to say.
yeah,
that
you would think
that's
so. Isn't it true? Is it true? I'm asking. Did he predicted 9/11?
not. I have no idea.
Didn't he say years in advance? Literally, he's like, 2 planes, they're going to be hijacked. They're going to fly into the Twin Towers. And they're going to call it this, and that. Like, word for word went through years before it happened.
Whoa. No, I don't know that.
I did hear something like that too.
Well, let's end it there, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know where to really go from there.
Do you want a spray rig? You looked like you were really thinking about it.
I am, yeah. Well, I mean, I've got an entire business that's built on spraying food plots.
You do?
Yeah.
We should come spray some for you. At least just to
that's
show
my business.
Well, did you grow on he?
Yeah, but not as a service.
Right.
No.
Okay, you don't provide it as a service.
No, I provide the spray product.
The product.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a synthetic blend? Like it's not organic or anything.
It's not certified organic,
But
it's derived from natural.
So it is derived from natural.
Yeah.
Okay.
Serious question. Is there anything in the Amish community that's like, how do the Amish view drones? I know it sounds funny, but I know you guys can't drive vehicles for the most part.
They like drone deer recovery. They like me.
I bet they love
They're
drone deer
watching it on
recovery.
YouTube. I just had a guy yesterday. I got myself a Trail and Swiss sandwich, and the Amish guy walked out. He's like, "I watch your videos." Like, okay.
How you do
You're
that?
like, oh, I didn't hear that.
No, there's a bunch of Amish people that watch.
Don't tell the bishop.
Dude, there's this one company in Sugar Creek, Ohio. They provide iPads for their employees at lunch break, and I guess they're all sitting in there watching drone deer videos.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at one point in time, I don't know if we were on the MNet call for HUNTR Podcast. Like that's how they Amish were listening to our podcast. They call in and dial whatever the extension is, and
No
there's
way.
I've tried it. I think there's somehow a disconnect. Like we're on there. If you dial MNet and then you go through, it's like option 21 or something, and then you click it, it's like this is no longer available. And I don't know how it was available in the first place, but I don't know how to get it fixed either.
Probably got censored.
Maybe you can make some
They
calls.
canceled us.
Maybe you can make some calls for us.
Dude, some of Amish try canceling us. There's
Yeah?
so many different.
It's all community based, right?
Yep. There's some that we would call Danner Amish.
Danner? Mhm.
Yeah, they definitely didn't want you to call a drone out if you wounded a deer. You're allowed to call a dog out, but not a drone. And so I just
No
told-
machines.
Yeah, I just told him I'm just going to bring a dog out, tie it to my truck when I'm flying my drone.
Are those rules set at the community level?
Yeah, like by the bishops.
Right.
I
Don't
think.
tell the bishop.
So a certain bishop,
Dude, I had an Amish guy call me because I kind of ripped him on, like, because it's like not only are states trying to ban us, now the Amish are trying to ban us. And an Amish guy has seen that, and he called us, or he called me, and he was like, Mike, I don't really like that video you're putting out there. You're making us look bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just telling it how it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I just found it funny. Wait, you're watching YouTube, and now you're calling
you're
me.
like, where'd you see that video?
Yeah, you're not even supposed to be doing that.
Gotcha.
Got the old iPhone stuffed up the keister.
Gotcha.
The old keister stash there, Nick. You got to watch that.
Well, I seem just like the legislators, the bishop for their own communities have to be, as they're made aware of technologies, they say, hey, for our community, this is
Yep.
should be a no-brainer, right? We all know we can't use drones,
same thing. Like, I mean, you talk about like legislatures and states trying to keep up. I'm sure these communities are spinning heads with how fast technology is changing.
Yep.
You know,
for sure. Like the e-bike right now.
Oh, yeah.
It just absolutely blew up in the county
bet.
where I live. But there's still communities that do not allow them.
Wow.
Just because they don't want to progress. I mean,
that's kind of the point, right? Is not to progress.
I guess.
I mean, trying to
I would say
go
e-bikes
against
are
the
a
grain
no-no.
is tough.
If I'm an Amish bishop, like, hey,
Yeah,
You're saying no?
It's
Yeah.
made it challenging at home, and it's become actually really dangerous because these e-bikes are going 25 miles an hour, and you're trying to like pass somebody, and they are just hauling it. Like, dude, there was there for like a 3-year stint. There's multiple deaths from bike accidents in our county. Yep, people getting run over.
The Amish wear a helmet when they're riding this?
Yeah, no, they started to more and more.
I've never seen an Amish helmet.
They definitely do.
I don't think they're any different than an English helmet, but they
correct. My best friend, his dad got run over by a semi, and now he's almost like
I don't know.
He's
If
still
I don't
alive.
know if a helmet would have protected that.
we think
It was a semi.
well, we think his helmet actually may have caused some of his injuries because it hit him so hard, his helmet partially flew off, and then he had the neck strap.
Yep.
And so then the neck strap almost like suffocated him and restricted the blood going to his brain.
Whoa.
I think that's what they're saying.
Dude, to wrap it up, I talked to my dad yesterday.
I don't understand that.
For a while.
I don't understand how.
I showed you the pictures
It
too.
makes no sense how they walked away without a scratch. I assume Willie was driving.
They were parked.
So, but Willie was in the driver's
Willie's
seat.
in the driver's seat. Scott was in the back seat, and my dad, I think, was out of the truck. And they were looking. So
They were looking at a
and
stream or
So my
something?
mom is the one that told me this. She's like, and I'll start it with, hey, they're fine. So just because you're going to hear this, and you're going to see the pictures, and it's pretty wild. I guess they were pulled over. They were driving to Canada to bear hunt. Whether they had made it to Canada or they were close to the line or
Almost
something.
made it.
Yeah, they were pulled over on this back road, like looking at just like I don't know, like a
Trout stream or something.
I don't know if it was a viewing area or looking at a stream or something like that. I think my dad was like out of the truck, and they see a logging truck coming down the road, and at some point they determine like it's a threat, like it's not able to assess coming at us or something. So I think Dad jumps back in the truck, is the way I understand it, and he described it like almost slow motion. They're like, you could see it coming. It's not like they were going 40, he was going 40. So they kind of see it coming, and they like, I think, take cover in the vehicle.
Wow.
Like are able to
Is
lean
that why
over.
he jumped back in the vehicle?
I
I guess
guess.
I mean,
Would
unless it
guess
was like
so.
a cliff, like you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and he said that it drug him, like he said, about 80 feet or something like that, which is, I don't know, 30 yards.
It's far. I mean, that's a fully loaded truck with logs.
Right. Well, and I guess a miracle that the truck didn't fall over and it was a full load.
Yeah.
That it didn't drop on him.
Jeez.
And
I mean, the truck was mangled. That's why I just
completely.
I don't understand.
You look at the truck, you're like, how is anybody
It's
alive?
crazy that our trucks peel that easy.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah, it was like a can opener just.
Yeah. I mean, it was immediately totaled, the truck. And they walked away without a scratch. I guess Willie got black eye is what Dad said, but they were hunted that night.
What the fuck? That's insane.
Yeah.
Final Destination shit.
I know. So, but it can happen that quick, just life's precious, I guess.
Wow.
You never know.
It is crazy how quick life can change.
Yeah, because that's like a weird, in the wrong place, right time. Like, you stop at a red light 2 minutes later, and you're not there when that truck loses control down there.
Apparently, and they say that the locals know. And so whether there was a sign or not, they said that they didn't see anything. But apparently this was they know that loggers come down this road every 20, 30 minutes.
And they're losing control, or just they're coming down?
No, I think they just don't go on them. It's they're mainly logging roads.
Oh, I gotcha.
But I don't know if they're marked accordingly. It's just the
gotcha.
locals know. I just don't have all the details in the situation.
That was nuts. Yeah, when you sent me that picture, I was like...
But everybody was there. EMS came out. Cops were there, obviously, right? And so they towed the vehicle. I don't know who they assigned fault to in a situation like that. It didn't sound like there was anybody was in trouble. It was more just hey, everybody. They assessed everybody. Everybody was fine.
Mm-hmm.
They sent everybody on their way.
Wow.
And Dad's bear hunting. Saw a 300-pound bear yesterday.
Holy cow. Where at in Canada are they?
I think Saskatchewan.
Are they?
I think so. Dude, he said
they drove out there?
Drove.
That's far.
I could be wrong.
Archery?
Mm-hmm. Archery. He said they're hunting in Hardside, fully they're homemade blinds by the outfitter, plywood or something, completely caulked on the inside, sealed. They're trying to eliminate mosquitoes completely, but 90 some degrees. He's it's 95 degrees up here. He's we're just literally sweating our balls off in these blinds. It's him and a guide.
Just like a sweat box.
Mm-hmm.
What would you rather? Have the mosquitoes?
Me for sure. Mosquitoes.
I don't know. You say that. I'd
stalking net up.
I was stalking
not to be confused
with Jim Scheffler one year in Wyoming through this marshy tall grass.
Mm-hmm.
And
is that a relative of Jared?
Yeah, it'd be his cousin.
Big Jim, that's always in the videos?
Yeah,
it's his cousin.
The Jimmy Bucks.
We made that connection about that property?
Well, we made the connection about Yoder filming with them.
That's right. When we had Jared
sold
on.
something to Jim Scheffler?
No, when Jared was on, he was telling us about that property at the altercation with the DNR on. And he's like, Yoder was out filming for us. And we're like, Mike Yoder? He's like, yeah.
Dude.
We're like, what?
Yeah, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
I filmed a lot of that. And I was with him on both. The Nebraska thing.
Yep.
And the Minnesota thing.
One.
It was so
it's
rare.
A weird crossing of paths there.
It was
Mike Yoder?
so rare.
The guy who was Amish.
Yep.
He was a cameraman?
Yep. Yeah. But no, I don't think I could take mosquitoes. When I was filming that time, I don't remember exactly when it was, but they were on my neck, and you can't swat them because you're filming. Oh my God.
Just
you can wear a net though. That's the thing.
It was
you could wear a complete net.
I miss Jim being in the Whitetail Adrenaline films.
Oh yeah.
I haven't spoke to him in a little while.
Classic for a laugh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good guys. I used to watch them and think that it was maybe just a show, but that's just how they are.
That's who they are.
That is exactly how they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guys. Yep. He's into real estate.
Is he?
Yeah. I don't know if he sells it, but he buys a bunch of it.
Jared or Jim?
Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't know. We never met Jim.
Mm-mm.
We met Jared a few months ago.
Yeah, multiple times.
And then we did a podcast, and we ran into him at Iowa.
I saw him in Harrisburg.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've become friends. You didn't meet Jim out there, though, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, he was in that group.
Yep.
Crazy. Well, cool, man. Well, we appreciate you flying in.
Yeah, no problem.
Super cool. You're the first guest that's ever flown in for a podcast. For sure.
We tried to do this before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried.
It was bad weather or something.
But you probably asked me in the busy season.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's getting a team established. Once you have more and more people.
Yeah, then you've got more breathing room to do stuff.
No. I mean, this morning, I couldn't have come here if I wouldn't have had the team I have. There's still a job that needed done, and Jay went out and got it done for me.
Absolutely.
So, I guess right now, from a service standpoint, was it New Way?
New Way. Spell Nuway.
Yep.
Ag.
And where are you servicing right now?
Well, I'll go as far as someone's willing to pay, and it depends on the acreage.
The job.
Yep. I would say mostly Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little Western PA.
Yep.
And Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Yep.
Yeah, we could keep going all day.
What was that eye roll?
I had not in a roll at all. For a minute, I was like, the logging industry kind of came to mind as you mentioned Ohio, and I was like, just in my mind, wondering if there's a business there
With drones?
as far as hauling logs out with drones.
Whoa. That's a big ass
I will be
haul.
doing something pretty cool with these heavy lift drones. I'm, I don't know if it's 100% sure moving trusses, like building trusses.
Yeah.
Raising barns.
Yeah, up a mountainside.
Absolutely.
How much is?
I'm telling you.
I mean, these heavy lift drones got to be what, like $100K?
No.
Really?
35 grand.
Cheaper than the ag ones. Good point.
5,000 more than the ag drones.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how much is it able to lift? Heavy.
Comfortably 100 pounds,
Okay.
but put a couple of them
So
on
Nick
it.
So I got to lose a few?
can lift Nick.
Put a couple. Well, see.
Or I just need two.
See, that's their first generation.
riding in.
I think the third generation is going to pick up 300 pounds.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
There's your lift to the
That's the one I
stand.
Yep. That's why I'm saying it's coming. Yeah, we could go on and on. There's a bunch of good stuff coming. Heavy lift drones. I think the content that we're going to release this year could go semi-viral because it's going to be that type of stuff, like the drone deer stuff that nobody's seen.
I saw you lift that dead deer.
Yeah, that was with an ag drone.
That was with an ag drone.
Yeah, but when I go to the mountains and I show actually how it works,
Yeah.
because this drone, are we gonna keep going?
Just
Whatever.
real quick. What's
Whatever,
the range on that?
It has 2 flight batteries, has a parachute on it, and it flies 44 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
They're saying with a full load 10 miles.
Wow.
But I have to go out and do my own testing.
Yeah.
So just like the spray drones, like they say, this many acres per hour, but realistic hours, realistic acres are probably 40 acres at max. But anyhow, so the flight cart, it flies with 2 batteries, flies super fast. I can transfer it off. So imagine you're down in a ravine.
Mm-hmm.
I fly the drone over to the mountain ridge. You grab it with your controller and you fly it down to where you were at.
Because of line of sight.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then you send it back up, and then I catch it and coming back.
Wow.
It seems like someday, it would be commonplace, like to where everybody's just like they have a Amazon Alexa. They're like, or have a dog. They're just like, hey, send my drone to go grab that and
I think it's coming.
bring it out to the field.
I think it's coming. This drone currently, I can send it on a flight route, tell it to go, down here 1 mile, turn left, and go over here and land. I can tell it to do that, and it'll do it all on its own. So if you are out in, in the bush and you load it up and you tell it to take it back to my truck and land, it'll go back there and
any
land.
application. Think of anything right now that requires a vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a log loader or
Yeah.
just a truck or an EMS thing or a fire,
yeah. Yep.
just drone, go.
I think that's where, just because they're government, that's where the FAA will try to pump those brakes.
Yep. Like
Hard.
fire suppression, flying up
Yeah.
product for fire suppression. Yep. Like I had a fire department from Arizona reach out to me because they want to use it in their EMS and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just even flying out like medical supplies up a mountainside or something.
Mm-hmm.
Get guys like yourself running up there without a load, get there faster instead of putting a load on yourself.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of uses for it.
Yeah.
When you get into that. Are those, because I know in those fire areas, they're using thermals right now on helicopters and airplanes to locate hot spots on the fire.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Drones
tons of
can be used for
application.
that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
Crazy, man. Well, yeah,
Yep.
we appreciate you flying in, dude, and
Thanks
spending
for
some
having
time
me.
with us. I think we solved quite a bit of problems today.
Yeah. Definitely turned some up. Whether we solved them or not. Yeah.
Chance of suppression on this one? 99%, probably.
Mild chance.
Mild chance of suppression on this one.
Yeah, if you're putting it on YouTube and we said that guy's name too often,
Yep. Mild chance,
definitely.
Or viral. I don't know. Either way.
Maybe.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
So, cool, Mike. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate everyone else listening to episode 188. And we'll catch y'all next week.
Later.
Take me